Now we managed to count down all right. A very good morning to you. We've got a packed house with us this morning. Owen is here.
How are you?
Kieran Donaghy is here.
Hey, Jar.
And Kenny Cunningham's here. How you doing?
Morning, Jar. It is packed, isn't it?
It is packed, and it's a packed show. We're going to talk about the game last night, the game tonight. We're going to talk about some of the big breaking news this morning. We're going to start with the news that Paul Flynn has decided to step away from the Dublin football panel. Kieran, what's your immediate reaction to this?
I actually feel for him. It must be injury in my eyes. It's the only way I could see something like that happening. So it's a tough one for him because he's been really a part of the journey. He was a part of the tough days. He was, and he was really one of the key fellas that drove that team over the line on many occasions. So to have this chance of glory and have to step away. I would presume it's injury. It could be something else. It could be he's struggling. I was talking to him a number of weeks ago with you at that dinner, and he was on about his rehab was coming back, and he was looking forward to getting in, and he was trying to maybe push for something in the league. And when I didn't see him in the league, I was kind of going, okay, he's just been kind of, this is going to be one tilt to the championship. I know he was upset he didn't get in last year. So look, it's a tough one for him because you hate to see it kind of taken out of your hands, and that's the only reason I can presume that you'd step away from history.
You'd think that he definitely has a role to play in a team like Dublin at the moment, setting standards and training, just making sure that everybody's sharp and just making sure that everybody realises what they're up against, because he's got a very calm, wise head on his shoulders.
Yeah, it's probably timing of it's a bit strange that even if a guy like that was struggling with an injury, that there's been cases in Kerry down the years where guys have got injured midway through the league or into the league, maybe a season-ending injury, and that they stay in the setup. And like Paul Flynn's his expertise are invaluable. One, he plays one of the hardest positions to play in the game, which is a dynamic half forward, when you're kind of expected to chase back and keep your man honest and get forward, kick scores, tackles. So he'd have a huge amount to give to any team, even from a point of view of just being a leader and a kind of a role model in the dressing room. So the fact that he's stepping away now when you're, I was, for the last 3 years, I've stepped in now after the league, and it's nice. It's a short season. You're coming in the ground, the sun is out, the ground is firm. You're kind of going, okay, there's 4 or 5 months in this, let's give it one crack. So I can only assume that it's been taken out of his hands.
How amazing was his career?
Astonishing, really. Like if you look at first just the player, so what he was able to do in big moments of games, what he was able to do when it was really kind of a case where they went from that kind of start Learwig's group to that group that got over the line in 2011. Didn't in 2012, but back then 13 again. And if you look at him from 13, bar that Donegal game, they could be going for 7 in a row, 6-7 in a row at this stage. Do you know what I mean? So that Donegal game too, like we all remember, I remember watching it at home because it's
sensational that day.
Yeah, and they were home and hosed early on in the game, and next thing it was just kind of this strange set of circumstances. They missed a few chances. Next thing, Donegal were getting these goals, and then they were, I'd say, panic mode a small bit. But if you take that game out of it, how dominant they have been, and he's been a major part of it, and he did all that. He did all the unseen work that you have to do as one of these top wing forwards, which is what he is in the modern era. He's up there with the Dewars and the Galvins and these fellas as your half forward that does all the dog work and does all the kind of the hard stuff, but then was able to get forward, kick scores, have great passer, great vision, and he was tough. He was tough in and around there. So he'll be a big loss in their dressing room, and I don't think he's over the last 18 months. He's been struggling with injury, and he's obviously not been there. But he was still a fella that you were kind of going late on. If Dublin are in an All-Ireland semi-final or an All-Ireland final with history beckoning, in my eyes, he was going to be a key guy for us this year to go, there you go, Paul. There's 15 minutes to go. Go in, set this down, get a score, make a few hard runs, and he'll be a loss on that front.
Maybe when you say the decision was taken out of his hands, it was Michael Lester who took it out of his hands, because he retired him at the All-Stars last year, if you recall. He was like, and the current Dublin team, and of course former players like yourself, Paul, will testify to the greatness of Jim Gavin. So maybe he was right all along.
Dirty dig by Michael.
Something everybody else did. John O'Shea also retired overnight, officially confirmed that he's hanging up his boots as a footballer.
Yeah, probably not so much a surprise with John. Not a huge amount of injuries, but just come to its natural conclusion for him. Had signed the year contract at Reading this year. Some talk he may have stepped back towards the start of this season, but he got the offer of a contract, and it's difficult not to take that up. You get to a stage, you know it's coming to an end, But if physically you feel in reasonable condition, temptation's always to take that other contract, not for financial reasons, but you know it's coming to an end. You know what lies ahead of you. Oh yeah, over the next 20. So it didn't surprise me that he took the year. Probably hasn't played a huge amount of football there, but a bit like you're talking about, I'm sure he's had a big influence around the football club, in the dressing room, on the training pitch. But seems as if he's kind of within himself. He's happy enough having made the decision. I think you pretty much know when's the right time. So I think John's getting spot on, and he'll have some good opportunities. I'm sure he'll present himself. He's a good speaker, John. He's got some great experiences. Like, he's been in a great environment up at Manchester United, different managers, the whole shebang. So he's spoken about maybe a coach role, potentially managing. So I'm sure he'll explore all those avenues over the next couple of years. You'll probably have him in here this year and here next week.
Where does he rank?
I'll be getting the phone call. We don't need you. I know we booked you. For the 2 shows next week, but don't worry if you got things on. Don't worry. I'll be like, John O'Shea, off the ball. What's all right?
Kicking down the door.
Yeah.
Good idea.
It's a natural order. It's a natural order, Jess. It's a natural order here. You know what I mean? You can't fight it.
Where does he rank in the in the pantheon of great Irish defenders? Because his club career and the medals he's won bears comparison with almost anybody.
Yeah, and I can understand that. People throw in the medals that he's won, which is quite phenomenal in terms of and the caps he's got, which again 118 caps. So I take that to a person. I just probably look at the physical attributes. The qualities which he had as a player, probably more so than all those other things. That's easy for me to say. Never won a trophy in my career. Trophies, they're overrated. But I think I won a championship. Actually, I'm talking myself down there. I think I got a medal at the end somewhere. Championship Sunderland, I think. Anyway, I didn't count. Didn't play enough games, but yeah, I think his physical characteristics, versatile is you cringe sometimes when you hear the word when you describe it as versatile. You know what I mean? I think versatile. Yeah,
you can fill a few swats. Yeah,
exactly. But he really could, John, and he was quite exceptional. Centre half predominantly is obviously where he played for Ireland, but he was so good. Technically, he was so good. Kieran, he's 6'3".
Yeah.
A little bit kind of gangly when you first saw him, so you think, he's a little bit of an orthodox headed kind of kicker, but beautiful. We used to have like little keep ball sessions with the squad, tight little squares, a lot of bodies in there, not a lot of time, kind of 1-2 touch, head in the swivel, and kind of the bigger lads, certainly the defender, it was a nightmare for the defender, you know what I mean? I wouldn't have seen the ball like for
getting Meg left, right and centre.
You're just basically trying to find a corner in the square and just hide for 20 minutes. That was my plan. But John was exceptional.
Yeah, but the goal against Germany, where like his foot is on a swivel and he's got no right to score it. He's kind of running the wrong way and it goes this way. It was like, that was pretty amazing.
Yeah, that was a small indicator, yeah. But he was very comfortable, centre midfield, very, very comfortable in there, and obviously in the full-back position. But just how he carried himself, great temperament, very good. I mean, from a very young age when he came into the squad, young lads can be a little bit nervous, it's all take a little bit of time to settle. But very quickly, John, very comfortable in that the international environment. Obviously realised his qualities which he had, but never kind of in an arrogant way. He carried himself, degree of modesty there, humility, the whole thing. But a little bit of steel as well underneath. You could sense a little bit of steeliness there, which
temperament is massive. Isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Trying to see any young player coming through has he got the temperament for it?
Yeah. So great career.
And so the other bit of news this week is that Austin Stacks won the Kerry Championship, the club championship. Am I right?
Yeah, club championship.
Not the county championship, but you
championship.
will be county champions if divisional team win. How does this work? What is this? So you're not in the All Ireland Club Series yet?
No,
but you might be.
Yeah. So basically, it's the senior club championship. So as of now, we're club champions, and then in the county champions, you aren't necessarily playing against clubs. So it's not called the club championship; it's county championship because you're playing against West Kerry, which is 5 clubs brought together. South Kerry is 8 clubs brought together. East Kerry is something similar. Field Rangers, Shannon Rangers, all these small. It's good in a way because it gives all your, it gives your small club fella a chance to represent his district on the biggest stage. So, you might be from Ballydonahue, but you could be in with Shannon Rangers, and Shannon Rangers could be playing Dr. Crokes in the county championship, being fine with 4,000 or 5,000 at it, and you're getting your chance to go out there and say, geez, he's that good. Whereas if he wasn't playing in that divisional team, you wouldn't really. Yeah, you might see him down intermediate Division 4, Division 5 county league.
That makes sense. Yeah,
you might get to see him. Whereas I was talking to Eamon O'Hara from Sligo there last week, just randomly and he was asking, he knew we were playing the final, and he was talking about the final, and he was like, explaining how to work, and I was talking to him, and he goes, what are the advantages with it? And I said, that's kind of your advantage. Like, I've got a cousin who was a Kerry minor, Kieran Donaghy, lovely footballer. He won a Kerry junior medal there 2 years ago. But that's his kind of shop window, playing with St. Brendan's in the divisional championship, and they might only get a game or two, but you know, there was a year there, I remember he was 18, 19 coming through, and they played West Kerry out in Onaskal, and he was marking Tomás O'Shea. You know, so Tomás O'Shea was coming near the end, and he was getting a chance to go in and play, or Mark O'Shea, he was getting a chance to come in and play against him, half back, half forward, and it was a great opportunity for him.
Gives him a platform, gives these players a platform, yeah.
So yeah, look, it's good to be.
He asked that question. There was a look of ridicule on his face.
There was, yeah. He wanted to start.
There was a smig on his face when he threw the question at you.
Owen's been trying to explain that to us for about 5 years.
We've had the same conversation every single time.
And actually, Kieran's just done it really easily and quite well, so well done.
Well,
Take note.
I'm not even sure what that even means.
Take note, write down a few notes.
You don't know everything, Owen, yeah?
Well, I'm happy to admit that. Oh, no, I think it's fantastic as well. I think like the idea as well that sort of carrot is there for you at the end of the year. Like, it's not like you're going to be supporting East Kerry or South Kerry, but if it is that situation where you're not in the county final, but it is a divisional team against a club team, it's great to have that come the end of the year. And as you said, the shop window thing is a huge thing, especially like a club like myself and Fireys, when they get to play with East Kerry and put themselves onto the shop window like that. It's a massive thing. I don't see why other counties don't do it.
Jack Sherwood last year was a prime example. You know, I'd been out of the Kerry team for a few years, playing with East Kerry last year, and I remember a game last Sussex Park. She was just bombing through them, like, you know, and I was kind of like, you know, he'll be like, if I was a new Kerry manager coming through, you know, he was in with Eamon for a while. He had a tough time. He came on against Dublin that time in 16 late against Kevin McManaman, and kind of came in almost as a
the 13 game, wasn't it?
Was it 13? Yeah, came in as a kind of a straight kind of. It was 16, I think, man.
Here we go.
Tommy,
exactly.
He was dropped before 16.
Was he 13? But he came on, he was like a direct substitute with Kevin McManaman. He was a young guy at the time, came in, and Kevin kind of got him a few times, and you know, but then last year he had a really good county championship with East Kerry, as Owen says, from Friaries originally, so it's a small
confidence as well.
Huge, and then he's in the shop window, so absolutely, it's like the divisional sides in Kerry, they're easier to beat at the start, so you want to get these teams early because they're coming together, they're not really buddy, they're used to actually killing each other, and like West Kerry come together, but the West Kerry championship, they're taking the heads off each other 3 weeks before or 3 weeks after it, so it's load of that going on, and then getting the chance to when you try to play these teams late on, they're harder to beat because they've got that 2 or 3 months together, whereas you want to try and get them early, so
there's like a good forward thinking.
Why don't more counties do it?
I don't know.
Is it dual counties? Is it because it's a
dual counties been issue? And I'd say the amount of clubs have been issue. We've so many clubs down in Kerry, like rural clubs, that, you know, to give them a chance to play, it's kind of something that has to be done.
And so you will be in the county championship. It doesn't affect your seeding or anything?
No, it doesn't. We'll be just treated the exact same. We'll be going for the county championship as well. Obviously, it's one of our targets at the start of most years, and to get this one, we wouldn't have been fancied like at the start of it. We were playing Dingle out in Onaskal, and Dingle will be a very good team, and we just had one of those games to play with. We have a young lad, Sean Quilter. He was our best player in the first 3 games. He's only 17, he's in 5th year. I thought he was in 1st year of college. I asked him what year he was in. He goes 5th year, and we out to Dingle, and I was going, 5th year? What are you studying?
Medicine.
He's like a bit of everything, you know. But like, I'll be okay. Like, it's kind of like a down year. Next year the leaving starts the big one, and I'm kind of going in the car going, this fella's playing corner forward next to me, like, you know, it's reckless. But he was quiet enough in the first half. The last day Crokes doing a good job in him. Comes out and kicks 7 points in the second half as 17. You're talking about temperament now and a young player, so he's my size.
The production line's over, I thought.
Yeah, no, he's left-legged. He's a great bit of stuff, but seeing him kick 7 points to kind of take us over the line the last day was huge.
We have obviously been running the competition for the last 9 weeks with Leia Healthcare, the official health and wellbeing partner to Leinster Rugby, launching Wellbeing Wednesday. Every week, one lucky winner has won a Blue Book voucher worth 250 quid for their own wellbeing retreat. We're picking out our 9th winner before 9 o'clock this morning, then our overall winner before the end of the show. And the overall winner will receive a Leia Healthcare wellbeing hamper. a Leinster season ticket for 2019-2020 to enter and become our 9th name in the hat for the Leia draw. Just answer this question. Who did Leinster beat in their first Champions Cup final? It was 10 years ago. Who did Leinster beat in their first Champions Cup final?
No chocolate. Where's the sweat? What in there?
It's a well-being brooch. You're hardly going to load it with chocolate. Here's your well-being. Here's your well-being in a heart attack.
You got to jazz it up a bit. You got to jazz it up. Come on. Plenty good food out there. There's plenty good food out there.
I mean, throw in a crunchy there that we can throw into the back of the house.
Artificial preservatives. You know, you can go down that road if you want.
It's wellness, Kenny.
Toblerone bar at least. Jesus, come on.
Toblerone.
All right, coming up on OTBAM this morning, we're reading the sports pages, 5 minutes late for that. The Champions League, we'll talk about that around about 8:10. Kenny's got the tactics board out and ready. Barcelona against Liverpool. Oh, look, it's our lovely assistant who's just taking... Hey, Tommy.
It's Tommy.
Shotclock coming your way around about 8:35. Going to talk with John Egan around about 8:40 this morning, who was obviously part of that successful Sheffield United team. The master of ceremonies at celebrations and a bit of a chip off the old block as well. And we're going to talk football for the rest of the morning as well, previewing the Liverpool game for you too. Now though, let's take you through the newspapers. Going to start with the Examiner this morning, and front page is Flying Dutchman. We haven't even talked about this just yet. Ajax star Van der Beek leaves Spurs facing daunting task in Amsterdam. There's also a picture of Ayrton Senna, 25 years since Ayrton Senna and Ronald Ratzenberg were killed at Imola. And then there's talk about Messi. Reds must suffer to deal with Barca star Donald Lennon. Allow the club rugby game to wither at your peril. The other stories in that one.
The Irish Daily Star this morning leads with Mayday, Spurs in distress after first leg defeat. You've also got State should have say in FAI. That's Sport Ireland chief John Tracy claiming the State will have a big say in the choice of the new FAI chief exec. And you've got Jurgen Klopp saying let's get a little bit crazy. He's told Liverpool to be ready to suffer against Barcelona tonight as they bid to wreck Lionel Messi's dream of a 5th Champions League crown.
And so, there you go. Advantage Ajax as Pochettino pauses plan for a rendezvous with Star Command. This was the Buzz Lightyear comment yesterday. Deflating night for Spurs as Ajax give lessons in speed and flair. Van der Beek star turn as visitors fillet Spurs. Or should it be filet?
The Daily Telegraph leads with Dutch Masters. Ajax take control of Champions League semi-final as Vertonghen is taken off in concussion scare. And red alert, we will fight to ruin Messi's dream, says Jurgen Klopp.
Yeah, a really bad concussion suffered by Jan Vertonghen. There's him spitting blood on the pitch. That was before he came back on. Klopp, we must be ready to suffer in toughest test. And friend and Connacht expecting backlash from filthy Ulster. I think he means it in a good sense though, right? It's like
he doesn't actually call them filthy, he says they should be filthy.
Things get lost in translation a bit. Filthy, it's like the Antipodeans mean something else, right? It's like you using words that we don't really understand because you're a different generation.
Well, exactly.
Or misusing words.
In an accent we don't really understand either.
He's got a bit of backup here on my python. I
realised what I was saying. I realised what I was saying as soon
I'm
as I
looking
said
after
it.
Foxy fellas next to me for the last 15 years.
Take that back.
Guardian this morning goes with total football. Spellbinding Ajax edge out battling Spurs in first leg. And Wimbledon mission, Murray given 7 weeks to seek his wild card for the tournament. United front then, England players back hails his World Cup axe. And Jurgen Klopp is well pictured on the back page. We are prepared to suffer. He says Liverpool are ready for pain in Barcelona, but warns we will have chances.
The Irish Daily Mail says that Conor Murray is feeling the heat for the first time in nearly a decade as Ireland's top number 9. which I'm not really sure is true. If he's fit, he's playing, and we all know that. Lionel Tamer's Klopp sends his men out to ruin Messi's dream, and Spurs have it all to do. And then Willie's joy is Undersow defends crown. So Undersow beat Min yesterday. Min 13-8 on. Undersow was 11-4 to
Beat him well, yeah.
Yeah. So not a great season for Ruby. Plenty to come today in the Gold Cup as well. Sun to rise for Spurs. There's a lot of hope that Heung-min Son is somehow going to change things around single-handedly for Spurs in the next leg. Certainly that didn't seem to be the case. And then inside, O'Carroll will lift team. We'll get to that in a minute, because apparently you had a central role in the birth of Rory O'Carroll. I don't even know if you knew that. Sickener is the back page of the Mirror. Because that falls out, yeah. Spurs reeling after Jan Horror and Beek Belter is the back of the Mirror.
The Racing Post on the front page goes with matches don't get bigger than this, and there's two of them. It's Album Photo versus Kenboy. Mullins' most exciting young chase stars go head-to-head on day 2 of Punchestown, and of course, Barcelona against Liverpool, and that is dominating proceedings on the back page. The ultimate test is the big headline. Liverpool look up for the challenge.
And the back page of the Times Ireland edition is Spurs on the ropes, and we will suffer in Nou Camp Warns Club. So there you go. It's like obviously Jurgen Klopp said one interesting thing in his press conference, and everybody has jumped on it.
The back page of the Sun then finally is sickener. Spurs face UEFA probe over Jan head injury. Now Poch boys have a mountain to climb, and there's actually some interesting stuff on the inside of the Sun about Vertonghen and the concussion, that ultimately the UEFA rules and the FA rules on this are actually different. That the UEFA's rules on concussion state that in the event of a suspected concussion, the referee stops the game to allow the injured player to be assessed by the team doctor. But then in the FA rules and the Premier League rules, clubs have to use an independent doctor in the tunnel who can use TV replays to identify possible concussions. So potentially in the wake of what happened last night, you could have a move to an independent doctor. That being said, I'm sure that the doctor last night acted in the best faith possible, and it just looked bad from our point of view on the couch. But like, it's just interesting looking into some of these. Under FA regulations, the failure to answer any of these questions correctly may suggest a concussion. What venue are we at today? Which half is it now? Who scored last in this game? What team did you play last? Did your team win the last game? I wasn't actually sure what the questions were, but they're just a sample of the ones you'd get in the Premier League.
That's a pretty old school approach to concussion as opposed to knowing things. Were you ever concussed on the field?
No, don't think so.
Really? Like?
No, I don't. No, I don't remember. You have those moments where you get hit, you hit the ground, and what happened there. But I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't say technically concussed. I don't remember being out of it. You know, have those moments where you get hit, whatever reason, and you.
Did you see stars?
Never had it that bad. Don't remember physically that nauseous kind of, as bad as that. That physically, your really kind of knocks you sideways. No, I don't remember being that bad. You get, knocked around and things like that. But
when you were playing though, the done thing was you get knocked out, you shake it off, and you play on, and then you joke about it afterwards. And
unless you're literally out for quite some time, it had to be stretched. If you were up reasonably quickly, at best taken to the sideline, the physio. Don't even remember too many doctors.
But there was no knowledge. There was no knowledge of it.
Of course.
Like, there was no the concussion. You'd be like, "What's concussion? I just got knocked out. I'm fine. I'm up again." There was no level of danger. Like the gum shields now with the chips in them. They're bringing out these gum shields that have chips that if you get a bang and it reads your teeth clenching or your head shaking violently, like that'd want to be brought into all sport rapid, because them questions are all grand, but concussion is too dangerous, and bleeds to the brain are too dangerous. You hear these fellas getting a punch in the night out and falling over, and they have a bleed to the brain and they die. Like that can happen to you on a football pitch. I had a cousin who got a knee playing rugby in a warm up for a game and nearly died from it. It's just the old adage of he's alright, throw him back on.
Well, the medical side is improved, huge. Like I said, I think the independent doctor is a good thing pitch side to make it give an independent assessment. Obviously look at the footage as well in a reasonably short period of time. But then obviously you have the problem potentially, people talking about taking the player off for a period of time, 5 minutes to be assessed. 5 minutes alone, you can have a situation where you're without a player on the football pitch really for 5 minutes.
So temporary subs could fix that.
Exactly. So now you're going down the road with how to resolve that situation. Potentially, like I said, it would be a temporary substitution to come on and go off the football pitch would be a way around that. So I think there is answers. It's not a case of how do we get around it. The solutions are there.
And it's okay at it's okay at the level we're talking about, but you're also talking about your Sunday league, your fellas playing 5-a-side, your fellas playing Division 4 County League, blowing Kerry. There mightn't be a doctor there mightn't even be a physio there, and that bang, it's the actual managers have to look at, he got a bad bang, do I want to take a risk with this fella that something's going to happen to him afterwards? And the answer should always be no. But
it didn't. I don't know what Pochettino was saying, but Pochettino, when they were trying to get him back on, Pochettino wasn't saying no, you can't go back on. That certainly didn't seem to be the case. He wasn't holding him back.
We don't. Yeah.
That's an obvious thing. Yeah, but you got to trust your medical staff there to make the correct call. And it's a funny one, the blood one. Like the blood looks up, but sometimes when you cut yourself and there's blood, it's almost like it's only a cut.
Yeah.
There's always that mentality is it's not. I was just cutting myself. himself. Like, you know what I mean?
That's what it looked like. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd cut them a little bit of slack, because it didn't look to me as if he was out for any period of time on the ground. It was a bad knock, all right. You know what I mean? But yeah, clearly it's potentially such a serious issue, as Kieran suggested there. But I think the solution is there. I think it just needs a little bit of tweaking just to get the process right in terms of how you deal with it.
In December 2008, Paddy Carr, who was in charge of Kilmacud Crokes, rang Jack O'Connor and asked for a challenge match. Do you remember this?
What, do I remember this?
Yeah, 2008.
No, I don't remember championship games. I don't mind the challenge game.
Kerry against Kilmacud Crokes, and you were marking Roy O'Carroll at half time or full time. You come up to Paddy Carr and goes, I remember Donaghy coming up to me after the game saying to me, "Who's that young fella?" And apparently the only way that they would, Crokes wanted the game so that he could mark you. You don't remember any of this? Didn't happen.
Just smart the Dubs, weren't they? a whole challenge game just to see if some fella was. I don't remember. Kerry versus Kilmacud Crokes.
They were. It was in between an All Ireland Leinster title and an All Ireland semi final. They were playing Corofin, and so Roy O'Carroll came on for his first ever game at half time in the Leinster final against Road, and they were getting ridden, and he marked Niall McNamee out of the game in the second half. And they reached the All Ireland final. They reached the All Ireland semi final against Corofin, and in between they played a game against Kerry, for a challenge game against Kerry, and apparently the deal was that on the stipulation that Kieran Donaghy would play full forward, so you ended up marking Roy O'Carroll, and you created Roy O'Carroll. If you'd crushed him that day the way you should, if you just dialed in for that one challenge game, all the hassle.
That challenge game in November against Kilmacud Crokes was after. It wasn't too fucking high in the agenda list, I can tell you. Jesus, although if I could have my time back and I knew what was coming, I might have been. But I'd say my shape now in November, December of 2008, 2007, 2008 mightn't have been great.
If you could go back and just put in a good performance.
You could turn back time.
Apparently his fourth ever game of football as a senior was for the Dubs. So he went and played those 3 games, and Packy Roy was like, "Yeah, you'll do. I need a full back. Thanks very much." So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
that's the quality of him, and that's how easy it's going to be for him to come back at this stage.
Yep. Just settle in as comfortable as he could be.
So Oisin Langan has been in touch to say that Paul Flynn limped off for Fingalians last week, having worked his balls off, he says, throughout the game. So maybe that is the injury that has
broke the camels.
Tipped him over at this stage, because obviously he'd been out for so long, come back. He played. I didn't see the Roscommon game last year because obviously it was a dead rubber, but apparently he played really well in that game.
Yeah, and it's probably it's probably where he's standing in the team is right now. He probably knows he needs to be 100% fit at every training session to make this Championship 26 for match day, and then it's up to him to get into that role where he's the guy that's been coming on to change the game. And I suppose if you're after picking up a bad injury now and you know you're out for two or 3 months again at this stage, you're kind of going, I'm going to come back in 2 or 3 months. Everybody else will be after 3 months of hard championship training, and I'm going to be in the same position I was last year, where I'm this kind of guy that I mightn't make the 26. And for a player of his ilk, that's hard to take. For a guy that when you're just used to being the man so long for Dublin, now you can't make the 26. So because of injury, obviously, but that's probably why he's pulled the plug, which is unfortunate.
Kieran, the rehab process, people underestimate how mentally draining that can be. I never had a particularly long-term injury, but I've seen a couple of players over the years go through it over the period of 12, 18, almost 2 years, crucial knee ligament injuries at the early stage, where it was a real struggle to get yourself back, setbacks, and go through it again. And you're talking to these people, and you're saying, well, head up, go again, start the rehab, go down a different road, keep at it. And eventually, remember, one lad turned around and said, I can't do it. Yeah. You can only go through this, so the days in the gym, the hours in the gym.
It's mental anguish,
Yeah, in that hope that I can get myself, and then to have it snatched, you got to go down a different road, more rehab. You can literally, mentally, you can only take so much of it. There comes the time, although everybody's telling you, no, you're too young, you got to keep going, you got to do this. Yeah, easy for you to say, but me, I've got to put myself through it mentally just as much as physically, and you just come to the end of the road, you just can't do it.
I wonder, is that tougher as a professional as well, because that is the sole thing that you're focused on, this is your livelihood, whereas say if you're a GAA player, at least you have other distractions in your life, you're not wholly consumed by getting back from that cruciate injury or whatever it may be.
Yeah, it does. It does consume you, but it's tough. It's tough. We've all come back through injuries, and you get, when you have the injury, boom, you take it on board, and you come to the decision, right, here we go, 3 months, 6 months.
All you want is the time.
Yeah.
How long am I out for? Okay, and then try and beat that target. That's what I would have always tried to do. Like if they told you it was 12 weeks, I'd be like going, right, 10 weeks, I'm going to be right.
Right.
And then it just give you that, you're just trying to beat the clock. It was always my way of making sure, as you said, that you were doing that. All that kind of hard,
and you have to separate yourself, Kieran, from the group to a certain extent. You put some distance between yourself, and that's it. It's about me. You just kind of get on with it. But it's a tough process to continue to be repeating. That's not easy.
Yeah, one other thing that's happening this morning, Cork's 96 FM are apparently reporting that John Caulfield will no longer continue as the Cork City manager. Apparently at the press conference yesterday he was saying that he was concerned about the resources that were being made available to the club, and it looks like that is the end to his time there. Because they put it up to Dundalk when Stephen Kenny was there.
Oh, he's had a great. I mean, I hope it doesn't end on a sad note for John down there. I'm sure it won't. I'm sure supporters will appreciate the kind of job he's done at the football club. When he came in, he's absolutely transformed the club, and the league's success a couple of years ago was absolutely phenomenal, bearing in mind how strong Dundalk were at the time. And it's not too long ago since Cork, reading stories around the club, turmoil, Cork City, you know what I mean? Yeah. Attendances, the crowd, in a bad way, the club. So he's totally turned the football club. A lot of pride in how the club's been playing, the success they've had. So, and these things naturally come to a conclusion at some time. So, yeah, I'm sure John will be disappointed, but he can be very proud of the job that he's done there. I'm sure it'll be appreciated by the people around the city and the county.
We've contacted Cork and John Caulfield for comment this morning. As soon as we get one, we'll bring it to you.
Like he's quoted in a couple of the papers this morning saying that how he had confidence in himself to actually turn things around, but obviously it's been a disastrous start to the season for Cork City, so we'll hopefully clarify that soon. I might just grab an Irish Examiner and perhaps an Irish Independent off you as well, because there's a couple of the stories we just wanted to touch on before we wanted to get to the shot clock. And one of the things that people are talking about, and it always gets
Game of Thrones.
Well, it's Game of Thrones. Not too far off, actually. I do want to talk television, because RTE and Sky released their television schedule yesterday in terms of what we'll see in the Championship, and really, again, it's no surprise that we're going to see a huge lack of football on TV until we get to the business end of the summer. So only 3 football matches in the provincial championships outside of the finals are going to be shown. I'm just going to pick up on Kieran Shannon's column here, who asks the very simple question about the best team in any given sport. How often would you generally see them on television? How many times will ESPN show the Golden State Warriors over the course of the season? More than anybody else. So the next time you'll see Jim Gavin's squad live on your TV screen will be June 23rd. It's hard to think of another sport or organisation on the planet that would allow its most outstanding and marketable team go over 3 months in season without at least one of its games being shown live on some network. And 14 weeks since they last featured on a live broadcast will be the gap between 2 Dublin games. And it is incredible, considering how good the product may be from a team perspective, that this is allowed to happen. But ultimately the product is so poor from a competition perspective, and this is why this has happened. And Shannon goes on to talk about the potential of the 2-tier championship next year, because ultimately, really, is it a television discussion that might actually spark change? Because rights are expensive, and the better your product is, the more expensive those rights get, the more money you have in your coffers at the end. Could this be the sort of thing that actually pushes the GAA into thinking, well, we can make a lot more money here if the Dubs are on TV a little bit more, if we have a better football product to go with the amazing hurling product that we'll see on RTE and Sky Sports over the next couple of weeks? Because let's face it, if I'm running RTE or Sky, I would make the exact same decision here. You can't blame the television companies for the lack of football over the next couple of weeks. All you can blame really is the way the competition is set up.
Yeah, 100%. It's just I don't know how long we can all talk about it, but certainly it's something that has to be looked at. I think we have to get. I think you can make a case for making those provincial championships kind of run off almost how we run off the club championship in Kerry.
Yeah,
it's a month. You get in there, we crown all our Ulster, Connacht, Leinster and Munster champions. There you go, lads. There's the trophy, because in essence that's all it is now. It's a part of history, which is why I get people don't want to get rid of it. So you just do it earlier on in the year. You get that should kind of determine your seeding for your first, we'll say your first 2-tier championship, and then you just got to go with it. You got to have teams coming up, and you got to have teams going down, and you got to get more of the top teams playing against each other in kind of with better crowds, like, you know, if we did Dublin and Kerry in Killarney with 45,000, it'd be an unbelievable marquee game. Kerry going up to Tyrone, Galway, Mayo. You could have like all these teams. The reason the league is so good is because every division is teams of similar abilities playing against each other. That's what makes it great television. That's why every game every time we come in here talking about National League product, is you're talking about there was a great game in Division 3, there was a great game in Division 4, there was a great, like, they're brilliant because the teams are evenly matched. And what we have, and unfortunately what the TV companies have at this stage of the game, is they're going up playing top level teams against teams that are in Division 3 or Division 4 of the National League, and it's like,
we know what's going to happen.
It's hard to get people to sit down and watch that, whereas you're right, maybe it is the TVs, maybe it is Sky Sports and RT to kind of go, okay lads, right, if we're going paying for this, we got to make sure that we're getting, like, if they had the league, like, you know, Air and RT must be laughing with the league because the games in Tina G are brilliant on a Sunday, and you sit down and watch all these games because you know it's going to be close, you know it's going to be a game, whether it's hurling or football. And the Sunday during winter, you're sitting down watching National League, be it hurling or football, but during the championship,
it leaves you wanting more. Whereas
you're on about not showing until provincial finals. Munster's a washout. Has been for the last 6 or 7 years since that great Cork team went away. Leinster has been a washout since this Dublin team have come along. You know, Ulster, there's a load made of it, but actually I think it's a lot of teams that are of kind of a level enough standing going head to head with each other, and there's big pride at stake up there, and you get kind of good games out of it up there. And Connacht, like, you had Sligo around there around the turn of the decade as well. You had Sligo around, but really since then it's Roscommon, and at least you've 3 teams in Connacht, and you know it's the only one where you can have a little bit of a rabbit in the hat. It's the only championship you can have it. The rest of them you can pretty much kind of pick your team to win it at the start of the year. You definitely pick your 2 finalists, but something has to be done, because what we're missing out on is unbelievable games that we could be getting at this time of year when the ground is dry and the sun is out and people can take their families to games. Don't have to be worried about freezing your arse off above in the stand with scarves, hats and headbands and 10 jackets on to keep yourself warm.
Yeah, it's frustrating as well seeing how good the hurling is inevitably going to be over the next couple of weeks, but that's going to be a story that's going to be spoken about for the next couple of months. The other thing that it kind of started in the newspapers yesterday is the sort of mind games around the Dubs 5 in a row coming from Peter Keane yesterday. Mind games is probably a bit strong, but we've got Liam Kearns in the newspaper this morning talking again about 1982. He says, I would say I was around when Kerry lost the 5 in a row. I got onto the panel myself as a sub after that for the 3 in a row. I was carried by the greats there for a couple of years. I was one of those extras. But like, I would have never seen Kerry beaten with that 5 in a row team, and I certainly didn't think Offaly would beat them. I came out of that game in shock. So the weight of history, in my opinion, beat them. The further this thing goes on, and the more talk there is about it in Dublin, the weight of history is going to weigh heavily on them. Can we classify this as mind games?
Clutching.
Can we classify it like...
Class is clutching.
We could literally get a different person in the newspaper every single day between now and the 1st of September, and you could have some sort of reference to 1982 or to the weight of history. Like,
but does anybody really think this kind of Dublin team, this with the management that they have, like, on top, is going to be any way effective? Like, it's going to be fractured somewhat by
history matters.
Do you think so?
Yeah, I do.
This Dublin team, how, like, mentally, I'm not talking about the individual qualities of the players, but just mentally, the whole collective there, how strong they are. Nothing gets in. Nothing seems to get in there.
I'm sure they'll be pretty strong in it. I'm sure they'll be pretty strong in it. But it's just that 10 minutes to go. You know, it's like you're up 1-0 and the ball's coming in and everybody gets a bit tight. That's what you're looking for. The pretenders to the throne to actually go to Dublin and be in the position where it is a 2-point game with 5 or 6 minutes to go, and they are coming, and every neutral in the crowd is getting behind them, which was like 82.
Kerry? Is it going to be Kerry? Are they the county? Any county can do it?
They're second.
Yeah, way too soon.
Push Dublin to that point that Kieran's talking about in a final, 15 minutes to go, I think still in the game, and put that type of pressure on them, where potentially you'll see that little bit of a mini meltdown. I mean,
yeah, they have to show a bit more. You know, they have to show a bit more during the summer to be considered that in my eyes, because last year we didn't even make a semi-final, Kerry, with relatively the same team. So
he's Kerry or Ajax. Don't be Kerry or Ajax, and they're going for everybody. Look at them; they can't contain their excitement. It's like, yeah.
I've been waiting for this, like a bit of backup for ages.
Right, that's your sports pages this morning. All this week here on OTBAM, we're giving away some great prizes for any cyclist or anybody who's into cycling or wants to get into cycling to celebrate the launch of the new cycling website, welovecycling.ie. You can win a Skoda cycling jersey and cycling shorts, a branded hoodie, t-shirt, cap, water bottle. To enter, just send us your favourite place to cycle in Ireland. We want photographic evidence as well, so give us a quick picture of your favourite cycle tracks anywhere around the country and we'll put you in the draw to win this great prize. welovecycling.ie includes helpful tips for all cyclists, from buying bikes to nutritional advice and info on the best cycle routes in Ireland. Now, Kieran, we're going to let you pop out for a few minutes to get us set up for the shot clock. Perfect. It is 8:24. The tactics board with Kenny Cunningham here is
a
next.
bacon sandwich, Kieran?
First, Thomas Conmark, though, Liverpool's throwing coach, spoke to Team 33 this week. He told them about the moment that they initially made contact with them.
I was going on a trip with my family, my wife and my 2 kids, and we were visiting a chocolate shop, and I had my no voice on my telephone, and I just had to look at the telephone before we went in to buy some chocolate, and then I could see there was a plus 44 number who has been calling, and I just had to check it, because if you have a company like me, might as well be a guy who wants to sell some pens or something like that. So I just listening to the voicemail, and then it was Jürgen Klopp on the voicemail. I was totally in shock, because I didn't see it coming. So I tried to call him back again, but he didn't take the phone, because perhaps it was several minutes before he had made the call himself. So I just thought, hey, I just want to go home and try to make the call in more quiet surroundings. And so I was driving my car, and my wife was sitting beside me, the kids in the back, and then suddenly the phone rang, and my wife took the phone up, and she said, "It's Jürgen," and I just took the car and then drove into a grass field. It was totally secure. No one was in danger. And then I took the call with Jürgen Klopp in the middle of a grass field. So then he invited me to Melwood the week after, and it was only going to be a meeting, but he was so I won't say impressed, but he was so convinced about the things I said that I got the chance to coach 21 players from the Premier League team the day after.
Yeah, it's Thomas Grunmark talking with the lads from Team 33, which you can see every Friday evening live on 9 o'clock on our social channels and live on the radio on News Talk as well. Now, Kenny's got the tactics board out, so what are we talking about now, Kenny?
What do you want to talk about?
Liverpool,
I didn't ask for this. This was thrown at me 15 minutes ago.
You know, it's got the right colours.
At least we got the reds. At least we got the right colours this week, which is a bonus. It's always interesting. I mean, tactically, Barcelona's always, the last 10 years, it seems as if we're talking about tactically how you set up against this Barcelona team to get the better of them, Messi included. Nothing generally changed in terms of how Barcelona play. Barcelona in the blue, there's the back four, PK, Longley, Jordi Alba, maybe Roberto or Smedo on the full back positions. There's that midfield three we're so used to seeing. Busquets at the bottom of the V. I think it'll be Rakitic and probably Arthur. There's an option maybe for throwing Coutinho into that midfield three for Barcelona, and Dembele on the left-hand side. But he leaned towards Arthur in the previous game and Coutinho on that kind of inside left position, so I presume he'll probably stick with that. So this is it. That's the kind of template for Barcelona, 4-3-3. Suarez up front, Messi operating in these areas, maybe a little bit of crossover between Messi and Suarez. So that's what Liverpool have to deal with. But this Liverpool team now is probably the best equipped of any Liverpool. I would suggest of any team in Europe at this moment in time to go to Barcelona and get the type of result that they need. And when I say the type of result, playing a certain way where they restrict Barcelona to a reasonably small amount of clear opportunities and really offer an attacking threat as well, even if it means counter-attack football. I just feel as if the personnel Liverpool have, there's the front three, Salah, Firmino we presume is going to be fit, and Mane, that narrow three high up the pitch. I think they'll look to go and press Barcelona if they can, and Liverpool generally do it when the ball's PK in possession of the football. Firmino will inch across. Salah over this side of the pitch will look to get himself in contact with Longley. He won't stay wide and allow the balls to be constantly played between the two centre halves. He'll kind of narrow up this side. Balls played to the full-back. Semedo, Mane will get in contact. Firmino, Salah getting cross himself, double narrow. And they'll leave the opposite full-back and really try and press over this side of the pitch. And that's an easy thing to say. They might have a little bit of joy with that. But Barcelona are so good. Invariably, Barcelona are going to end up in good possession in this area of the pitch. PK or Longley in possession. Liverpool will get pushed back. But Liverpool now have a defensive rearguard, have a back four in Virgil van Dijk. I put Joe, in an ideal world, I'd like match fit Joe Gomez alongside him. For me, that's the best partnership in the Premier League. But it'll probably be Matip this evening. But the defensive line, Alexander and Robertson, that's as solid, that's as strong as Liverpool have for quite some time. And it's not just about the back four. This midfield three now, Liverpool have real options in terms of a real kind of defensively solid, dynamic, physically imposing midfield three. Potentially going forward for me, Fabinho, Henderson and Kate. I don't think Kate will play tonight. I have a gut feeling might go for Wijnaldum. But Liverpool have players in there now who really physically impose themselves, win tackles, get tight to people, like impose themselves, almost dominate physically. Not saying technically they might be necessarily the best players in the world, but they can really lock down a game. That Liverpool back four and that midfield three now with Fabinho at the base, Henderson and more advanced, which I think he's very comfortable in, and possibly Wijnaldum stroke Kate. They'd have a midfield three now who can sit in and give real protection to this back four. You have 7 players now who can sit in now and soak up pressure. And when you're confident in yourself to sit back in these deep positions, soak up pressure, with that front three Liverpool have, you've really got a chance. Because we know what Barcelona will do. They'll send those full-backs high up the pitch. When they send those full-backs high up the pitch, that's the trigger for these Barcelona wide men to come on the inside. Coutinho and Messi into these little pockets on the inside. Liverpool midfielders will drop off into that narrow shape that we're talking about. Full-backs to a certain extent will narrow up. That's exactly what Barcelona want. So the key is always in the modern game, but particularly this Barcelona team, is to position these full-backs. How do you counteract these two full-backs? Roberto Semedo and Jordi Alba in particular, in this formation, which doesn't change, this 4-3 Liverpool formation. Now, the easy thing to do, ball gets played to the full-back, would be to say to Mane, go back with him. When he gets himself even in a more advanced position, go back with him. And you see a lot of this in the modern game. Wingers actually operating 5-10 yards square of your fullback. So almost a back five, even a back six at times, where managers almost a little bit scared, asking their wingers to track those opposition fullbacks all the way into the defensive line. Now that's all well and good. You can say, well, 6 at the back, that's exactly where you want. Not a lot of space there to operate. But you're really isolating your lone striker high up the pitch and negating your opportunity to a counter-attack effectively. Because a counter-attack now, your wingers have to pick up the ball in deep line areas and get themselves 50 yards up the pitch. That's very hard to do, especially when it's in which press you immediately. So what you see with Liverpool and what Klopp's done traditionally, which I like to see, which impresses me, the 2 wide men, say it's over the other side of the pitch, Jordi Alba is creeping forward, Longley's in possession of the ball, and maybe Busquets. What you see Liverpool wide men do is they'll drop, but they'll only drop so far. And Salah will get himself to a point where Alba, it's almost like a little cut-off point on the pitch. When he gets beyond this, Salah will go no further. He'll go no further and he'll hold his position here and leave that responsibility to Alexander-Arnold to get out and deal with Alba. Now, there's a potential risk in that. By Alexander-Arnold going out, you're opening up the space a little bit more for the likes to continue on the inside. Matic might have to step out. Fabinho's going to have to be switched on, get himself across into this area of the pitch. But the advantage of it, if you're prepared to take a little bit more risk in terms of keeping your wingers a bit higher up the pitch, if Barcelona try to play in these little areas on the inside and Matip steps up and wins the ball, maybe Fabinho steps across and makes an interception, immediately you have your wingers here in these areas of the pitch. You can call them little almost cheating positions, but if Liverpool win the ball and can find Salah quickly into these areas of the pitch, very quickly he's got 20 yards of space to run into, and very quickly he's going to be in position running at Langley almost in a 1v1 situation. Busquets, for me, generally hasn't got the legs to get across and influence it. So there's real opportunities for Liverpool by keeping the likes of Salah and Mane in these kind of half-cheating positions. Yeah, drop them back with the fullbacks, but only to a point where they say, now you've got to deal with this, because if we can win it back, now there's great opportunities for us to attack these spaces down the sides of the Barcelona two centre-halves, and very quickly, with Firmino as well, break from this central position, very quickly to get themselves into almost 3v3 situations with the two Barcelona centre-halves and Busquets as well dropping in. That's what Liverpool want. The Liverpool get enough of those situations, 2v2 and 3v3, even on the halfway line, they'll really fancy their chances. So that'll be the end. Have a look for that one tonight. Liverpool wingers dropping into those defensive positions, but not there. And not there into almost a back six, which amazingly you see a lot of. And that's great. And as a centre-half, I'd love to see it. The more players to come back to help me out, the better. But that's been a little bit selfish. And you're not really helping yourself, because what it means is you're going to, when you do win the ball back, and you will win it back with a defensive six and a midfield three in front of that narrowed up. But when you win it back, your ability to get up the pitch and counter-attack and get out of your half the pitch is very difficult, Ger.
And is that what Man United did? They dropped six back, and so that's why they were never able to get a shot.
Well, Manchester, I'm talking about this Liverpool system in particular. Manchester City United approached a little bit different. They played with this split strikers. They played with a diamond shape in midfield. Lingard playing off the front too. But there was a little bit of similarity in terms of the split strikers. The Manchester United split strikers occupy these areas of the pitch as well. You know, just in between fullback and centre half. So kind of the principle was the same. Although United played a different way with two strikes up the pitch and split, the principle was still the same. Drop off into these areas, but with the intention of, when we win it back, finding you immediately with the ball to feet, or very quickly get yourselves forward and attach yourself to those two Barcelona centre-halves who are split across the pitch. So that'll be the fascinating thing. But I just think Liverpool are so well set up. Like I said, Gomez has been a little bit critical. I'd love to see him in there alongside Van Dijk. But it's all about, I like the way Klopp sets up the team, and this in particular, I like the fact, and you can see it, I saw it very early on with Liverpool. I saw Salah and Mane get themselves to a position and almost put the brakes on, as if to say, that's enough, I'm going, I've done enough now. Now it's your responsibility. You go and deal with the fullback. You've got to hold him. You've got to hold the midfielder in there, and Fabinho who can get across. You've got cover on your inside shoulder, centre half. It's not easy. The rotation's so good from Barcelona. They find the pocket so well. But if you have a little bit of nerve and keep those wide men 10, 15 yards higher up the pitch, if Van Dijk can step in and win the ball immediately, there's a 15-yard pass on into the feet of Mane and Salah. And if they get turned, which they should do because the fullbacks are the wrong side, they'll be getting the ball. There won't be a fullback coming up quickly and making contact. The fullbacks are the wrong side of them. They're playing as wingers. They can get turned and very quickly get from these areas here, 10 yards inside their own half, very quickly to 10 yards outside the Barcelona penalty box. So it's an obvious game plan. It's a pretty obvious thing to say, but I can see it. There's a real clear picture there in terms of how Liverpool can hurt Barcelona. But the big if is, can you sit in there for the periods of time? You alluded to with Klopp's comments, they're going to suffer. Well, suffer means they're going to suffer in terms of out possession in a football. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to suffer in terms of chances of conceding goals, but you suffer in terms of concentration levels, sitting there, soaking up pressure. But this Liverpool team now, not just the back four, but that midfield three now, in terms of the power, that kind of the defensive noose they have in there now, they have the ability now to go to these places now and be comfortable to sit and soak up that amount of pressure and go really hit teams.
I see Graham Hunter use the term kryptonite to describe Liverpool against Barcelona tonight. Like, I wonder, Barcelona never really kind of adapt themselves to another team because they always feel they can take them on and they're going to be better than them. Could we see out wide potentially a more conservative version of Barcelona tonight?
No, I don't think anything will change. No. Yeah, nothing changes. The template doesn't change. They have a huge amount of confidence in their ability. I'm talking about potentially Salah and Mane thinking, well, this is a real opportunity. And I'm sure Barcelona will know this. But it's not an arrogance, it's a confidence. They'll say, well, yeah, we know potentially if we will get the ball there to them, they can hurt us. But you know what? We're going to back ourselves just to basically keep the ball. We're going to keep the ball. We're not going to give the ball away. We're not going to give the ball away in poor areas here for you to win it back and immediately fire the ball into the feet. we back ourselves to keep possession. Even these tight areas, confined areas of the pitch, Messi coming in there, Coutinho, Rakitic, Busquets, we'll still operate in these tight little pockets. We'll still keep the ball off you and make you suffer. So yeah, we can see the danger there in terms of these counter-attacking opportunities, but no, we're backing ourselves with the amount of possession we have in these areas to actually hurt you even more. So that's the kind of interesting contrast. Who's going to come out on top? That Liverpool defensive mindset, that newfound kind of resilience and defensive ability. And for me, there's nobody better than Liverpool. Liverpool, the best English team, better than Manchester City, better than in terms of sitting in and soaking up the type of pressure they're going to have to do this evening, and still offer that real punchy counter-attack, kryptonite, whatever we want to call it, a threat on the counter-attack.
It's going to be a good game.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a cracking game. I think it's fantastic. The game last night, to be honest with you, it was a decent game in terms of semi-final Champions League, in terms of top quality of football. To a certain extent, Ajax in that first half an hour, but Tottenham were poor. They looked a bit uncomfortable in the shape, how they set up. They weren't at it. So yeah, I wasn't overly Barcelona. It didn't blow me away in that first half hour. But generally speaking, I thought the quality of football, average. This is clearly, I think, it's going to be a level above tonight. Can't wait.
All right. The two lads are going to go out and get some breakfast. Arsenal's Louise Quinn spoke to Joe last night. We're going to come back with the Shotclock in a minute. So this is Louise Quinn speaking with Joe on the radio last night about the club's league win, her reaction to the recent series of FAI controversies as well. Have a look.
One last area to get your thoughts on. How closely have you followed John Delaney FAI travails over the last month or two?
Yeah, I've definitely seen quite a bit of it. It's a very kind of tough thing to comprehend at the moment and to take it in. But I think it just shows that when ourselves, the women's national team, were trying to put up a fight for what we deserved. It is a shame to hear that some of the money wasn't coming our way when it should have been.
Well, let me put it to you in these terms, because I think you were told, well, look, the money's not there. But then, it emerges, for instance, and we don't have all the facts, and it's not to make the case against just one person. I'm not just doing that in John Delaney's case. But for instance, as a high-profile example, there was 36 grand a year paying his rent that you guys didn't even know about. So, in that context, I wouldn't be blaming any player on your team if they were reading the Sunday Times over the last few weeks saying, "What the hell is this?"
Yeah, exactly. And, I think we've all kind of, had something to say about it. And all you can say is that it's disappointing now. And the position that it's in at the moment is that, Sport Ireland have pulled the funding, towards the women's team and grassroots. And
will that affect you in any real direct way anytime soon, do you know, or is it a wait and see kind of thing?
Yeah, it's an absolute wait and see. Okay. We've been given no information about it, and it's hopefully something that can be resolved very soon. But which when it seems to be that it is starting to become resolved, but we literally have no information at all. So we're hearing exactly what everyone else is hearing in the news.
Right.
But yeah, it's just disappointing overall, and hopefully it can just be fixed up. So us, and across the board, League of Ireland, grassroots, everything that everything just gets put in order, so we can perform on the pitch and represent our country to the best ability that we want to do. We're incredibly proud of wearing the jersey, but we want our association to be proud of us as well. So hopefully that can really kick on now.
All right, it's time for this week's Shot Clock. The rules are pretty simple at this stage. I hope you know them. We get 2 minutes to debate a topic. At the end of it, you get to decide who wins. A little bit later on, we're going to speak with John Egan about an amazing season that he's had at Sheffield United. Our first topic this week is about greatness or the underdog. I'm making the case that at this stage, the right thing for us all to do is to get behind the greatness that we see in everyday life, which is such a rare thing. So this Dublin team gone for 5 in a row. Wouldn't it be great to say you saw the best team in Gaelic football history actually win something? The same way that it was great that we all got to see Tiger Woods come back, the greatness of his career fully. There's just a little exclamation mark at the end, like Jack Nicklaus winning in '86. All those great things, like an Irish team winning the Grand Slam, when Ireland win the Rugby World Cup. If anybody believes that we're going to do that. it's great to be around greatness. It was great to see that Manchester United team in their absolute peak. It was great that they drove Arsenal to be the Invincibles, and that was the only thing that could drive them to that. Apparently, though, I'm completely wrong, and everybody actually wants to see Dublin trip up. What the hell's wrong with you people?
You secretly want them to trip up too, Joe. But it's greatness is always appreciated after the fact, and I think you mentioned Tiger Woods, you mentioned Jack Nicklaus. They were actually underdogs almost. Of course, Tiger is the man, but we're all kind of rooting for Tiger this time as an underdog. I'm sure there was times when Tiger was completely dominating for the game that we were hoping somebody'd beat him. His greatness was then, but we kind of only realised that we realised how good he was. But I think the underdog pulls on our emotions more, and I think, you know, if it was like a Kerry Offaly 82, if it was a Dublin Mayo All-Ireland final, the emotional side of you has to lean towards Mayo, and you'll be sitting in your chair, Jerry, yes, even you, sitting in your chair praying to God that Mayo would do it because they're the underdog, because they're trying to defeat greatness. But if Dublin do it, you will sit back in 10 years and kind of go, wow, there was some team, and you'll be telling your kids, I saw them in their pomp. And so I think always greatness is kind of is always looked at after the event, but at the exact time of it, you're always going with the underdog. It's Irish, it's human nature, Joe. We're underdogs by nature. We always cheer for the underdogs, no? I
think though that greatness is underappreciated in this country. I think that Kilkenny hurling team only began to get their dues properly about a decade afterwards, when they all started to come out and it turned out that they were all as funny and good crack as it turns out they are. But that at the time people were like, oh, this is boring. They've just put in an absolutely perfect performance against Waterford. This is no good for the game. It was like, that's the greatest team that ever lived, doing the greatest things that we're ever going to see. Yeah, it's hard to recognise it at the fact, because all we do is want Waterford to win that All Ireland. But yeah, no, it's a good topic. We'll keep it going. We'll bring it back up again sometime. Next up, we just touched on him earlier on, but the great John O'Shea, the Waterford man, who is retiring. What a career he had. The nutmeg on Figo. To be honest, if I was John O'Shea, I'd just walk around with the nutmeg on Figo literally ready to play on my phone just to show anybody, because it was such an epic moment against one of the world's best. But his career is far more than that, and what he did in the game, he's obviously up there with all-time Irish centre-halves. I suppose you'd have Richard Dunn, John O'Shea, Paul McGrath, Mark Lawrenson, Kenny Cunningham. Paul McGrath's top, right? That's 100% Paul McGrath's top. And after that, so who is your partner alongside Paul McGrath? I mean, John O'Shea's got a shout to be right in there. I didn't see enough of Mark Lawrenson because he kind of just retired around the time when I was starting to watch football properly. But obviously, Lawrenson is part of one of the greatest Liverpool teams and has done it at the European Cup level, so he must be in consideration as well. And then obviously back in the day, there are a couple of amazing centre backs, I think, in the 50s. But let's keep it to the Charlton era and beyond. Okay. And I think that you can definitely make the case that he is Paul McGrath's natural partner. Yeah, I think so. I think it'd be probably, in my head, it'd be probably against himself and Richard Dunn. But I think what John O'Shea is often underestimated for was, we talked about his versatility earlier on, but that he could actually go to the centre midfield in that great United team and play, not look out of place. He could go left back, right back, centre back, defensive midfielder role. So, you know, that's a big, you know, Kenny was talking about, he's 6'3", a big man, and going in there as a defensive midfielder for Man United and being solid and not looking out of place, and wherever he was needed at the time, he was put, and he scored some massive goals and had some massive moments in games. And I think he'll always be just remembered. I think I haven't met him enough. I only came across him once, but I think he's probably the nicest fella of all time, I'd say. Like, I've never heard anybody say a bad word about him. Just looked like an all-round great teammate, and he can be very proud of the career that he had with Ireland, Man United, and everybody else he played with, because it was unbelievable from the lad from Waterford. Yeah, I think his club career puts him just ahead of Richard Dunn, so he gets into the Ireland team. Okay, still from Paul McGrath. Yeah, exactly. All right, so we're doing burnout, GAA burnout in this one, and this is the whole notion that there are no football championships worth talking about apart from really the Ulster Football Championship and maybe a little bit of Connacht. So it means that the Ulster lads go at each other and kill each other. They slit each other's throats, sometimes literally. We're very Game of Thrones here. Sometimes literally in those games. And then they get to Croke Park and they're like, oh, well, we won Ulster, so that's fine. We're absolutely exhausted. It's the same with the Munster Hurling Championship. The great championship that it is, the storied Munster Hurling Championship, which is talked about as a global sports event, not really a good thing to actually win, generally, if you want to go on and win an All-Ireland. One of those things that actually takes so much out of you in doing it, that it's not necessarily worth the benefit of it. Whereas you look at the Leinster Football Championship, the Munster Football Championship, you coast through, you pick up a handy All-Ireland if you're Dublin or Kerry in those good years, and away you go.
Stop it.
Whereas the rest of the country, stupidly, is trying to beat their neighbours when actually what they should be trying to do is like, oh, let's play the under-21s in these games, and we'll see you again in Croker when it matters.
Stop it. I completely disagree. We just talked about a few moments ago about re-tiering the championship, so we'd have more of these teams taking
I agree
the head.
with that. That's different.
Yeah, but then what, like you're going to have these teams that are going after each other. I think the Ulster Championship and the Munster Hurling Championship, it's always burnout is always a thing where I remember Tyrone got to us in 2008. I think they played 10 games that summer. And they won. And everybody said afterwards, they were very sharp. They'd played loads of matches. They were used to each other. They'd been in the battles. They'd come out of them. Jesus, isn't that brilliant? If Tyrone lost that final, every single same person would be saying they were tired. They did a tough Ulster Championship. They were burnt out. It's rubbish. Play every week. Play the best teams every week. Try and make it all the same. No such thing as burnout. We're playing 10 championship games. We're training for 12 months. We're non-stop up and down mountains, rivers, through everything to get ready for championship. We play once every 3 or 4 weeks. Half of the games are a walkover. So yeah, no, I don't believe in the burnout. They're not doing enough.
The reason for that was really about Leeds and Bielsa burning them out, and Keith Andrews having said months and months and months ago that Leeds would actually eventually burn themselves out with the style and all that stuff that had been going on. But it was just an excuse for me to talk about the handy All-Irelands.
Yeah, exactly.
Dublin have won. So.
And in that point, it's because the results have gone a bit shaky that's looked upon now. And if they'd kept on winning, they'd be a great team. There'd be no talk about burnout. So it's always a results-based issue. Next up, hate to say it, but Rockets and Warriors NBA playoffs. I'm going to give them his chance to gloat. Go on, Joe.
2-0 at the moment to the Warriors against the whiny Rockets. I didn't realise that the Rockets were such a whiny bunch of losers. I saw apparently they went away last year after they got beaten by the Warriors, and they did up a dossier. They went through every single missed call. They had 79 missed calls that would have led to 18.5 points in the final game that would have maybe overturned the defeat, because they lost by 9, and if you add 18 to 9 you get 9, and so they would have won by 9, and then they would have won the championship finals, because we all know LeBron and the Cavs wouldn't have shown up against the finals against the Houston Rockets. Wine, bitch. I didn't know this.
The Rockets are down 2-0 now. They're going to go back to Houston. I think they're going to get game 3. That sets it all up. If they get game 4, they go back in. I think game 5 is going to be pivotal in the series. They're whining. They're right to whine. For 82 games, 82 in the regular season, they've called every time somebody has nearly stepped on James Harden's toes on a 3-point line, he gets an N1. He's all year playing, and he's all year flopping after his threes, used to getting these N1. Oh, hold on, now you're playing the Golden State. Now everybody in the world is watching the series. We're going to stop calling it all of a sudden. And I remember I said to you, I fancied the Rockets to win the NBA this year, but I was worried about one thing. The Utah Jazz played them a number of weeks ago. They guarded James Harden in a way that we hadn't seen all season. They stood high up on his left side. He's a left-handed shooter. He couldn't get that shot off on his left hand. They actually stood this side of him and made him drive right-handed. That's how good of a 3-point shooter this guy is. And I was afraid of this happening, and I saw it in the highlights this morning. I saw it in game 1. They're defending him high up there. They're making it really hard for him. They're making him drive. He's dropping alley-oops to Capella, but he's not getting his threes. He's not getting his 50 points. I think this Rockets crowd on game 3 is going to be off the charts. And I think if they get game 3, Ger, we're going to have a great series. They're 10-1. They're basically 10-1 now to beat the Rockets 4 times in the next 6 games, which is tough enough to do. But I think if there's a team to do it, it will be the Rockets.
Yeah, if there is. I hear a lot of whining.
If the refs blow all the calls. Yeah, but you're going to get home advantage, Ger. We talk about home advantage with Kerry. We talk about home advantage with Dublin playing in Croke Park. Home advantage is a real thing when you're playing a team like the Warriors, who can shoot it with Clay, Steph and Kevin Durant, and they're hitting these trees after trees after trees. That's tough to play against on the road, but you get them on the road and it might be a different story.
The Rockets basically want to be Team 33. That's what they want. All right, so fantasy comeback. If you could pick one team, so we're going to pick the top 4 in the betting at the moment for the All-Ireland Football Championship. If you could pick one player from history to come back and rejoin the panel to get a team over the line, I'm going to start with 2 easy ones. My first one is Tyrone, the easy one here. I mean, Brian McGuigan, I think, would actually be almost as invaluable to this team as Peter Cunningham, who I am going to pick. I'm going to pick Peter Cunningham because obviously he's like one of generational talent, and if you stick Peter Cunningham in that team, all of a sudden you can just leave him up in the forward line on his own, double marked, and he's still going to kick 1-4, 1-5, 1-6 from play over the course of a game.
Yeah, and exactly. I was like you, I'd McGuigan. I'd also do her as a kind of, especially the fact that they've Matty Donnelly inside, because he was kind of almost doing that number 10 role. But you can't leave out God. Peter Canavan, he's corner forward. You build everybody else around him. He's an obvious one. For me, in the Dublin side, I went with Kieran Whelan. I just think if you're going to try and win 5 in a row and you Fenton and Whelan in midfield, they're going to be very hard to beat, the two of them. You can't take your eyes off both of them. Both of them can kick scores. Both of them are brilliant in the air. Both of them are strong as a horse. I think that putting him into that Dublin midfield with Fenton would make them virtually unstoppable for the 5 in a row.
There's only one Dublin player who Dublin need to get back from this or any other generation. That's Diarmuid Connolly, and we all know that's the truth.
He's not retired. Not retired.
Any retired player, I would actually give them Alan Brogan. Alan Brogan at his peak, I think, is a player who actually comes to that team, and I think they're strong enough in midfield and they have enough. Or now you could actually add Paul Flynn at his absolute peak, because again, I know Mark will send half forward who can do all the defensive stuff. And but let's move on to Mayo, because I mean there's an obvious one here, but then there's a better one, I think, than the obvious one. Who have you gone for?
I've gone for, I don't know, is this your obvious one? But I've gone for Kieran McDonald. I just think just having him on the 40 yards there with Aidan O'Shea out midfield and giving him the ball and letting him pick out guys inside, and he was certainly just one of them all-time great players, and he was an inspirational player. And if you needed somebody to try and stop the 5 in a row or get Mayo over the line, I think if you slip McDonald into this team, I think it'd up your chances big time.
I'm going for Lee McHale. That's I just think that, you're going to be able to. He's a jigsaw that you can move everybody else around as well.
Yeah, you throw him in around the edge of the square.
You can put him as a man-marking job on Fenton if you have to. You can do whatever you want with him, but he's definitely going to be a game winner. He's going to get that All-Ireland.
What about Kerry?
He deserves. For Kerry, I mean, I think if you just add you back into the team, I mean, you're fit.
Will you shut up?
Well, you've won a club championship. What the hell's wrong with you? Do you just not care anymore? Is that you just not?
Jesus, I've gone with Jack O'Shea. Don't mind that fella. I've gone with Jack O'Shea. I just think Kerry right now, if we were to go to the All Ireland, need a bit of steel, need that running ability, that football ability. Yeah, Jack O'Shea, all-time great. Throw him in there next to a fit David Moore, and I think that'd be the midfield combo that would take it to the Dubs.
Yeah, no, you add Jack O'Shea into any team and suddenly they're the best team in the country, right?
Yeah.
Getting pretty close to it.
Yeah, getting close to it.
All right, that was good crack. Let's move on, because one of the big stories in Irish football over the last week has been the success of Sheffield United, backboned by a bunch of Irish players, and I'm delighted to say we have one on the line. John Egan, good morning to you. How you doing?
Morning, lads. How's things?
Morning, John.
Morning, Kieran. How are you, boy?
Good, boy. Good. We were looking at some of the bit of banter that you were having there after you eventually got up. It looked like a bit of crack.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. I think, straight after the game, obviously it was a bit weird being on the pitch because, there was still a 6-point swing and obviously it was kind of virtually done, but there was a bit of goal difference. And then I think once Leeds and Villa drew on Sunday, that was it. Then we were up, and I suppose you've seen all the videos and everything on Twitter. It was amazing scenes. Such a big club, big city, and everyone was just delighted. And I think you can see by all the videos, and that is unbelievable.
Yeah, good chant by yourself afterwards. You're looking sharp. You've the tux still on. You're like a fella. You're like a fella at about 11:30 during the wedding. The shirt is just about to start coming out.
I know, yeah, you have to scroll well for these things, but the chant was mad. It was just something I came up with. Would you believe I came up with it? I seen a video on Twitter 6 or 7 months ago, and I think it was Letterkenny IT. I think they won the Trench Cup or something, and they sang this song in the back of a bus, LA, and they mentioned Oisin McConville, and they mentioned a lot of fellas in it. And I remember thinking at the time, I was like, Jesus, that's unbelievable. I'd love if we won something and I came up with a chant like that. And that's basically where that started. And it was just got up on the stage and belted it out, and all of a sudden it's everywhere now. I can't pick my phone up without seeing a notification.
Yeah, I know, it's a good one. Yeah, it looks like a bit of crack. And come here to me, a fella that's stuck in the crack is your manager, Chris Wilder. He looks like good fun, but he also seems a great manager. How was it playing centre half for him?
He's brilliant. I came to the club last July, and from the off, I knew that. I knew this was a successful manager. I think it's his third promotion in 3 years, and working with him now for this season, I can see why he's such a winner. We have a great way of playing, and we play good football, and we've been successful. But I think what tops everything off is just how much of a winner he is and how motivational he is. I mean, every time he addresses us, no matter, it could be on a Monday morning, could be on a Friday morning, but whenever we have a meeting with him, you come out of the meeting and you're ready to run through a brick wall from really. And I think that shows on the pitch. I think every single week as a team, we don't give anything up easily. I think everybody goes out, works 100%, and I think that really comes from the manager. And it's for me personally as a centre half to work for him. He's made me better as well. But as a team, as a group, we're all delighted to have him, and he's the best I've ever worked with. And yeah.
It's interesting you talk about him making you a better player, because the setup of the team was something that Keith Andrews had been raving about for months. He was talking about the overlapping centre backs, and you're obviously one of those. So how has he improved you, and how have you managed to fit into that system? It kind of feels like it's a perfect marriage.
Yeah, it's a really good fit. We play 3-5-2, and two boys alongside me, they'd be going overlapping, and I don't think anyone's ever kind of seen that before, centre halves overlapping. I think you seen the first goal against Ipswich. Jack O'Connell goes on a run, gets the ball, gives it inside, give and go, and then pulls it in. Scotty Hogan finishes it, and that really sums us up. We throw caution to the wind without being reckless, and it's up to me then to kind of organise behind that and make sure that we keep clean sheets. And to have 21 clean sheets already is pretty good, and that's another side of it. We as good as we are going forward, you have to keep the back door locked, and I think the way we play, it's hard for teams to kind of get the grips with it. And as I said, me playing in the middle of a back three, it's just gone as well as it could really. It seemed like a perfect fit, as you said.
John, one of the things that I was really keen to ask you about was the journey that you've been on, because it has had massive setbacks along the way. People might have seen the documentary a couple of years ago when you were, I think, with Sunderland at that stage, and it was you recovering from surgery. It was you and a couple of other Irish lads who were over through the academy system in England, and who were kind of at different stages of their careers. And for most of it, you were sitting there playing PlayStation and putting yourself in playing PlayStation, and it was like there was kind of this awful sense that maybe this was as far as your career was going to go because the injury was so severe. But here you are on the verge of playing in the Premier League through a circuitous route. You have to be a hard bastard to stick it out the whole way.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, people think being a footballer is all great, and there's no downs to it, but I can assure you that it's a long road, even for players to play Championship, to play League One, Premier League, no matter what league. To be a footballer, you have to be mentally strong. And I think obviously when I broke my leg, it was really low. Probably coming off that pitch in Bradford that night, I was obviously in a world of pain, but I was obviously half thinking, Jesus, is that it? I'd be lying if I never told you that I thought that, but. I suppose I kept the belief, my rehab at Sunderland, I kept my belief all the way through that, wrote down a few goals and stuff, what I wanted to do, and, thankfully I just stuck to the plan and kept trying to get better, and, got my leg, got back up on my feet, and, I think I started in the first few games, I went on loan to Southend in League Two, and ever since then it's been an upward curve, and, it's just all about belief and being mentally strong, and, hopefully people, maybe more young players who unfortunately might suffer a bad injury when they're 18, 19 trying to break through. Hopefully some of them can maybe look at my story and see that they're, if you put the work in and if you're dedicated and make sacrifices, that you can come back from these things and you can kick on and go on to do whatever you want to do.
John, we know you're tough because you've got obviously a good breeding line.
Yeah.
And for your old man to survive years with Jimmy Dean and marking him in training, you're obviously made of, the Egans are obviously made of good stuff. And I always, even been friends with Tommy Walsh and David Moore, and it must be tough, like for the likes of yourselves, kind of like almost playing under that shadow, and even for you to and I know how proud you are of your old man and what he was able to do for Kerry, but how proud of you the fact that you, as you said, through all these injuries, through all them knocks, are going to be lacing up your boots, sitting in Premier League dressing rooms next year, ready to go to war with your teammate, who you've got a great manager, you'll strengthen the squad. What are your goals yourself for next year?
Well, to be honest, it hasn't even kind of sunk in yet, but even thinking about it there just is unbelievable. I mean, goals for us next year now, obviously we have to go away and, kind of try switch off in the summer and relax, but when we come back, the goals have got to be to come in and, try to take to the Premier League like we've kind of taken to this division, not to be afraid of it and go and try and attack it. And seeing how well teams have done, in the past when they've come up, and it'll be up to us now to go in and keep our distinctive style and go into it. And there's going to be times when you're going to be up against it. Obviously, the top 6 teams are they're top teams, top players from all over the world. The Premier League is like a world league now. So yeah, we no doubt there's going to be some tough games, but I think if we keep to our principles, I think that we'll have a good season, hopefully.
What about your own hopes in terms of the Ireland setup? Obviously, you've kind of been on the fringe of squads in the past, and you're beginning to get some opportunities there. Like centre back is one of those positions, and we've talked about this with people all around the world, that in Europe at the moment, centre backs aren't really coming to the peak of their powers until their mid to late 20s. Just the way the game has evolved, it's not as physical a game anymore. You can't just go and kick somebody the way you were able to do in the 80s and even up to the 90s. So it's taken a bit longer for coaching to understand exactly how to get young players into the mindset of playing. You've got hundreds of games now, effectively, and you're kind of arriving at just the right moment in the Premier League.
Yeah, I feel really, I feel ready. I've always believed in my ability anyway, no matter what age I was. I suppose that's probably out of pure stubbornness, but I really do feel as ready as ever now, and I just have to keep improving. You have to keep improving till the day you finish, and I think there's a lot of improvement left in me, and I'm looking forward now to this summer and to next season, and testing myself at the highest level.
One last thing, sorry for me. You must have been watching Jan Vertonghen last night. Very interested. You had a couple of concussions when you were at Brentford, and obviously it's something the football is really catching up on rugby a little bit at the moment. Still has a bit of education to do generally.
Yeah, I picked up a couple of concussions last season when I was at Brentford, and to be fair, at Brentford, the doctors and the physios took everything out of my hands, so it was good and stuff. And I think the second concussion I got, they actually didn't allow me go back playing for 3 or 4 weeks, even though it's like a week protocol, just to be on the safe side. So I think it's something that is definitely improving in soccer. I think 3 or 4 years ago, you get a head knock in the pitch and you probably just try to run it off, and you end up being dizzy after training or after a game or something. But I think now there's a lot more awareness about it, and seeing that last night, it didn't look good. But when you're heading balls and you're clashing heads, I think it's going to be common, and it's good now that that there's a bit of awareness about it anyway, because your health is your wealth at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely, John. And where's enough with the serious talk? Listen to me. Where are you going on holidays? Where's your first piss up going to be? And how are you going to celebrate this thing properly?
You'll have to keep the eyes peeled. You have to keep the eyes peeled.
I'll have to keep an eye on Instagram.
We'll have that organised.
Don't be giving away them secrets.
But I'll be back to Kerry in here sometime, so I'll have to give you a text when I'm back in Kerry. Yeah, we'll meet up for sure. And look, listen, boy, absolutely unbelievably proud of you, and well done, and enjoy the break, and keep the head on, and keep working hard for next season, and we'll be in touch. Best of luck. I will, Kieran. Thanks a million.
Not a bother, John. Thank you.
Good stuff. That is this week's Shotclock. Great interview there with John Egan. Very happy with life, and deservedly so. Yeah, absolutely. Look, a great guy. I got on to him yesterday about coming on Shotclock, and no bother. So yeah, he's a great kid, very down to earth. Barry John Keane would be very good friends with him. They'd be over and back, and I'd say if he's good friends with Barry John, he's that kind of a bit of a good. He's got great banter, I'd say, because Barry John's very witty, and the two of them together are supposed to be good crack. And John came to 1 or 2 of our sessions back over the years to probably see how we were doing stuff and how it was different to what he was doing over across the pond. But sessions on the pitch.
His sessions on the pitch, yeah. It might have been 1 or 2 off it as well. Right, we're sleepwalking into the football championship. It feels a little bit. It's all kicking off this weekend. Here's the Galway boss, Kevin Walsh, talking with Martras and Kelly.
Probably want to shoot me now when I say this, but when people talk about Galway football the last few years, chat inevitably turns around to the boring defensive thing. It's not fun to watch. There's no enjoyment in it. This is not the flair that Galway football have. This is not the football you played in 98 and 01. What do you say to that?
I don't see how they do it, because I think, look at it, when you analyse stuff properly, and people who spend the time to analyse it properly without having an agenda, you'll find that all the top teams, will structurally set up properly. And I think if you really want to do your homework on it and have a balanced view, I think you'll see that it's not much more than the other team if you look at it properly. But unfortunately, some loud voices and some people that want to talk about that, unfortunately it causes a perception amongst people, and unless you've balance to back it up, it shouldn't be really said. But that's life, that's the way it's said. We have to look after our own team and work with it and try and get as much results as we can for the team. And I think the last 2 games in the league, the week before the second last game, were the highest scores in the league. We'd won 11 scores, I think it's up in Tyrone. And so, but people can turn around and say this. So look, I can't control what people say. I don't have the forum to sit behind the table. So look, I just have to work with my team as hard as I can. Our lads know exactly what's going on, so that's important.
Well, you could argue you could have a forum. I mean, you could probably ring up any journalist in the country and we'd gladly talk to you. I've enough to do, to be honest. Because if I ring up journalists and talk to you, all I'm doing is creating more footage for the other lads. So I don't work that way.
It's Maura Trassa and Kevin Walsh getting into it there a little bit. You can see that full thing on our YouTube channel. Kenny's back with Phil's here as well with the news that's going on in the world.
Yeah, well, it's been confirmed. Yeah, they have released a statement to confirm that the club is part of the company with John Caulfield. Took charge in 2014. Really successful spell. Obviously, the highlight, the League and Cup double in 2017, won the FAI Cup in 2016, that great rivalry with Dundalk, but reached 4 cup finals in a row, 4 top 2 finishes in a row, but it's been an absolute disaster for them this season. 8 league games without a win, just 3 wins from 14. Third from bottom in the SSE Electricity League Premier Division. In a statement that they released, John Caulfield, there was quotes, he said, "I feel the time is right to part ways with the club. I'd like to thank the players and backroom team for the huge success brought to the club since 2014, and he wishes everyone the best for the rest of the 2019 season and looks forward to attending games as a supporter in the stand." So the club say they'll appoint an interim manager for the foreseeable future, and they are away to Bohemians. A few Bohemians fans in the office will be a little bit worried about that new manager
backlash.
Yeah. Because
is this not a bit premature, Kenny? Is this not somebody who has earned the right to have a down season? Like, do you not get enough? When you've got that bank of work that John Caulfield has.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair comment. I always feel as if end of season is probably the best time, generally speaking, in terms of taking stock. Have a look at the overall picture and don't make any quick decisions. I don't know what the conversation was between John and the board. Maybe it got to the point where John just felt sometimes the manager says, look, just feel as if the players need to hear a different voice. They need something fresh, a different type of approach. Maybe sometimes you get a bit of a sense of that as a manager. Sometimes, and I understand, I think it's a natural desire as manager to put it right now. I've got the answers, I can turn this around. I think we heard those comments from John last week. You'd expect that. That's a natural thing for a professional to say. Like, you always feel as if you're the one who's got the answers, particularly with the success John has had there. But maybe on reflection, maybe even over the past week, and it could be something small in training. You're putting a session on, you're looking at the players, see how they react, and it's not quite, the players aren't quite reacting, implementing what you're saying. You just get a sense of maybe now is the time. So I take your point, let's wait till the end of the season. But if you get that feeling as a coach, manager, you just get a sense that, no, that's it now.
Yeah, you hope it's that kind of scenario that John is kind of, as you said, that John has been kind of noticing that they aren't buying in, or the vibe is. You hope it's that, and you hope it isn't the other way around, as you said, Jerry. You hope that the club haven't kind of gone, okay, this is the way we're going to put it now, we'll part companies, but we really know that have a disastrous start to the season. I hope it's not that scenario. I hope it's the one you're talking about, where him as a manager, having had such success down there, has kind of realised they're just not buying into it anymore, or I've lost one or two of them, or I've lost a few of the main guys, and if you lose a few of the main guys, then that filters down. So I hope it's that scenario rather than the...
And if it's a big rebuilding job there, like financially a few restrictions there, lost a few players and stuff, you may feel as if, right, there's big turnaround in terms of personnel, this is a big job now, and you just might feel as if, best to just pass that on to somebody else, that kind of process.
You're a dub, would you ever see yourself living in Cork?
Ah, beautiful. Do you know what? I landed in Cork a couple of years. Well, I was covering a Cork game. Funny enough, it was Bohemians. Shawnee McGuire's first game for Cork. Scored 2 goals. He had a great game. But I hadn't been in Cork for, I'd say, 20 years. I don't know if I mentioned this before. Since I played an under-21 game there for Ireland against England. I nearly finished my career. Probably the worst games of football I ever played. Played up against Lee Sharp. He absolutely tore me asunder for night. Confidence was all time low. I was embarrassed coming out. Literally embarrassed. Embarrassed like coming off a football pitch. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm not me deaf. I'm kidding myself. It was literally that. So that was my last thought of leaving Cork that particular trip. But I came back like 20 years for that particular game, coming through the airport. Oh, those wild Atlantic. I just got those, not the big pictures on the walls there, the coastline at Cork. So straight away I was thinking, you know what? Yeah, I'm feeling this. Yeah. Went into the town, great little buzz in the town. Went to the game that evening, great game of football. Cork played well. But yeah, you get a bit of a sense of great football. Love their sport. Yeah. And the football team in particular, get it going there, which John has done. The people are really kind of buy into it. So I'm not really one for the Dublin car. No, I'll make a Kerry thing. I'll have all a bit of crack. But at the end of the day, sport is sport, and Cork is a great footballing city, and that's a great job for someone.
Basically, all I've taken out of that, Kenny, is you went to Cork and then you didn't go there for 20 years again. That sums it up for me.
And Lee Sharp.
20 years, like.
Well, I would say, I think I'd mention like Colin Healy on the series now. You're talking about maybe an interim manager there. Colin Healy's been working there for a couple of years with the youth setup there. Obviously, got a lot of knowledge of the young upcoming talent within the football club. So I would imagine in an interim capacity, they could certainly do worse than put Colin into that role for the foreseeable future, and even just have it. It might even be from now to the end. Not a right. You never write off the season. They're all professionals, but it might be just a case of maybe someone like Colin stepping in and just off you go. Let's have a look. Let's just have a look how things go between now and the end of the season. How the players react to you. Are you comfortable in the role? And take it from there. I'm sure it'd be a very popular appointment.
Champions League tonight. Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp says the side will be going up against the best player he's ever seen, and that's in the semi-final. He's talking about Lionel Messi, his first leg at the Nou Camp against Barcelona. And if he's looked at the tactics board that Kenny showed us, Jurgen will be all right. That game kicks off at 8 o'clock. Tottenham will need to overturn a 1-goal deficit away to Ajax next Wednesday in the second leg of their semi-final. Donny van de Beek with the goal after 15 minutes, but the big talking point is Jan Vertonghen. Spurs manager Mauricio Pochettino defended his medical staff after the game following the head injury to Vertonghen in the first half. He was treated for 5 minutes on the pitch, attempted to play on but had to be taken off, nearly collapsed on the sideline. Looked like he got sick as well. And Pochettino said after the game that he does trust the decisions taken by his medical team.
My player is still thinking the same, are heroes. To be in the situation that we are today, we need to give them the full credit. But of course, the first half an hour wasn't the best. With all the circumstances that we are fighting, I think we are alive.
Paul Flynn has called time in his inter-county career with the Dublin senior footballers. 12 years he was in the blue jersey. 32-year-old won 6 All-Ireland titles, 10 Leinster titles, 5 National League titles, and he also picked up 4 All-Stars, and those 4 All-Stars came in a row between 2011 and 2014. The Fingalians clubman, who is also the chief executive of the GPA, said he loved every minute of his time in the blue jersey. A difficult decision, but he said since his back surgery last year, he struggled to reach the fitness required for inter-county football. The William Mullins trained under stole the show yesterday to win the Boyle Sports Champion Chase on the opening day of the Punchestown Festival, and Mullins will be hoping for more success in today's feature, the Coral Gold Cup. His duo of Album Photo and Kemboy are due to go off as joint favourites, as was of yesterday. 20-4 is the start time again today. Irish boxer Dennis Hogan says there could be news on a potential rematch with Jaime Munguia later this week. Hogan was controversially appointed by the Mexican in Monterrey on the 13th of April in their WBO light middleweight world title bout. Hogan's team are due to meet representatives of Golden Boy, and Golden Boy will obviously be in Vegas this weekend because their main man Canelo Alvarez takes on Danny Jacobs in the world middleweight title showdown. But Dennis joined us this week for the Off the Ball episode, and which will be streamed later today, and he told us about some of the things that worked against him fighting a Mexican in Mexico.
We've learned so much from this fight. I mean, I mean, obviously, you know, I'm not here to talk about it like that, but his team had seats and they had a nice system to get in and out of the ring. Where I didn't know at the time that the guys didn't have seats. I didn't know that. Someone had to sit on the ground, sit on the edge of the seat steps. What I do remember is, on one occasion, Glenn and the supervisor they both came flying through the ropes. Glenn nearly fell on the ground. And I was like, what is going on here? And I was like, why is this? And then Glenn was losing tense after this guy, and it was actually a fairly big man to get through the ropes. So there was 10 seconds being lost there, and then getting out, Glenn had to get out before him, so it was 10 seconds. So Glenn only had 40 seconds with me between the ropes.
Yeah. Dennis Hogan gave us a great insight into the whole experience of the world title fight, and he said he'd be back in the studio next year with the world title. He said he'll bring it, and you know what, I believe him. Yeah, John Higgins and Neil Robertson will resume at 4 frames apiece in their World Snooker Championship quarter-final. That match gets underway again at 10 o'clock this morning. At the same time, Gary Wilson will start 9-7 up on Ali Carter.
All right, Mark Waters is our 9th and final Blue Book winner for Wellbeing Wednesday with thanks to Leia Healthcare. We asked you to name Leinster's opponent in the 2008-2009 Champions Cup final. It was, of course, Leicester Tigers. We're doing our final draw at the end of the show, where the overall prize will go to one of our 9 winners. Leia Healthcare are the health and wellness partner of Leinster Rugby. Anne-Marie Marr, Darcy Cameron, Jimmy McCullough, Rob Byrne, Carl Lawler, Seamus Gagan, Bridget Murphy, Rory O'Dea and Mark Waters are the 9 winners in the draw at 9:30. Now, we want to talk a bit of football with the lads. Owen, he's so slow. That was the worst pit stop in history. He's getting his mic on out there, and now he's panicking. He doesn't know if it's on.
He's got his gel out.
Yeah.
His beard trimmer. His beard trimmer's come out now.
Yeah. We'll see Owen sometime next week. Come on in, Owen. Come on.
This isn't America.
Right, so Rio Ferdinand is obviously a pundit with BT, and he's been linked with the gig at Man United at the moment, and that's not going away. There's a story today that Solskjaer actually really wants his man to be in there, and he is batting at the moment for Mike Phelan to be the new technical director at Manchester United. What do you think of all this, Kenny?
Yeah, but depends what that easy technical director, sporting director. You know, forget about the title. What does the job involve? What's his response? What would Rio Ferdinand's responsibility be under this new role? For me, it would only be. It'd have to be recruitment. You know, you wouldn't be talking about a role. He's overseeing the whole structure of the football club, youth development, the whole shebang. You would think primarily be focused upon player recruitment. Manchester United are going to a summer of recruitment. This summer in particular is going to be absolutely massive in terms big decisions in terms of which football players are going to be allowed to leave the football club, the likes of Lukaku, Pogba, De Gea, potentially all these type of players, and who they're going to target to come in. Some massive decisions that are going to have to be made. So for me, it makes sense. Whether you have to give him a role of technical director, I'm not too sure. Whether you actually have to get him on the payroll, I'm not too sure. Well, fair enough. But I think there's logic to it in terms of putting a committee of people, like cabal of people, sitting them around the table. The manager, Solskjaer, Rio Ferdinand, Woodward, whoever those people may be. Some people non-football, more of a business background, but clearly people with a football and knowledge, not just the football knowledge, people who've played the game, actually got a good eye for, not for the game, but for players, individual attributes of players, where Manchester United are at the moment, what they need, what positions they need strengthening, the individual attributes of players. It's not just a case of, well, he's played for the club, let's go and it's not just the case. Some players haven't got that kind of skill set. Yeah. But Rio Ferdinand, from what I've seen, yeah, maybe so. I think that makes a little bit of sense. Gary Neville, all the Manchester United pundits now, like a very strong opinion based in terms of what Manchester United need, etc. I'm sure they have the best interest of the club. So someone like Ferdinand, yeah, I can understand it, bringing him into the football club and getting his opinion, his recommendations. Maybe not just that, maybe involving him a little bit more, embedding him in maybe into the football club. Yeah, possibly so. But the title, the title doesn't bother me. It's what he's actually going to do, how he's going to help the football club, what skill set does he have. Shouldn't
the person in charge of recruitment also have some understanding of the talent pool that's in the club? And so don't you need, therefore, to also have ultimate responsibility for what style of play the coaching staff is trying to implement, what skill sets they're trying to implement? No, I'm not sure about the style of play. You can't impose that on the manager in terms of how the team's going to play. For me, recruitment's huge. Skill set is, though, and you need to know what your 17 to 19-year-old group of players to under 21s are like in the club. Otherwise, you can't go out and buy players because you're buying players that are the same as the ones you've got.
But somebody will delegate that role separately to another individual. Will have responsibility over the youth setup under 23 all the way down. They'll actually separate those roles.
Should work for the technical director or whoever's in charge.
Yeah, there can be an overlap there. Of course, those people should be in constant communication. But this role, as I understand, is going to primarily be centred around the first team squad and recruitment there. And I mean, the recruitment out at a football club is huge. The personnel now is absolutely huge. People on the ground, scout network around Europe, globally, all around the world. Communication between these people, information getting dripped back. Somebody's got to be in control of all of that. You know, when we talk about United needing 2 centre half, there's got to be a whole database of centre halves the world over the last 6 years. They must have about 50 to 100. They need to have these players on their system. Age, are they available? The type of players that they have. All this information should be computed, should be laid out there. But somebody's got to control it. Someone's got to drive all of that, and ultimately, he's got to look at that information and eventually go to the manager and put 4 or 5 names on the table and say these are the players we can get.
And it's the culture. I all these United boys that are in the media, they keep talking about the United way, the culture that Solskjaer got that when he came in first, which is why he started getting results. They were playing the United way. They were all saying this, but I think the role of these guys, when they're looking for players, they're looking for their talent levels. But I think what has to be on par with that are what kind of guys. What kind of guy are we buying here? It's fine to see the guy out on the pitch, and he's wonderful and he's a great player. But is he going to be? Is he going to be a good fit for the dressing room? Is he a good fit for the club? That has to be. I would say with guys like Ferdinand or one of these fellas, if they got a role like that, that'd be their biggest thing is go dig deeper than just the stats and the results and way he plays at. And is he actually going to be? Is he steely tough? Is he going to be the good player for this club? Is he going to buy into the philosophy? And that underage setup is important. But that's where you build a culture of coming in, and it's hard to build a culture into all these young fellas. Then you get them into the senior group, and then you buy this fella from Brazil who lands in and doesn't want anything to do with the culture, just getting the big money, and I play this way, and this is the way I'm going to play. I think that's the breakdown.
You're absolutely right. Character's important. That's why it's interesting, the kind of modern day approach to player recruitment, very much in terms of that data-based, isn't it? Crunching the numbers. Right, we need to get a centre forward in. Right, let's have a look. Such and such playing in the La Liga, France, assists, goals,
we'll get him
cover, boom, ticks all the boxes. But what Kieran's talking about, not a lot of talk about, what type of person, what type of personality are we getting? I think that's to a large extent, we actually need people. You still need a little bit old school people on the ground, scouts on the ground, talking to people in the club, talking to teammates, managers who've worked on him. What's the type of fellow? What's he like? Attitude, good character. What's his background? Boom, getting collating all that information as well with the type of stuff, the data stuff that we're talking about, and putting all that together and saying, potentially this is a Manchester United player.
That flaw is huge. That flaw of not being a good teammate, or not buying into the philosophy of the club, or just being no dickheads allowed. It basically don't bring in that type of.
Yeah, but nobody knows if that structure's been in place at Manchester. I don't know. I know Ed Woodward's been buying players in, but who's Ed Woodward?
Hasn't been in place.
It's PlayStation buying. It's what a lot of it is. It's like you do at home playing. Hold on, I need a strike. I'll go buy this fella. He's a good player. He's got good stats. He's got good numbers. I'll buy him, throw him up front. He'll be great. But that's a computer game, and that's what we talked about it on Shotclock last week. 801 million spent on all these superstars or great big names, but actually were they the fit? And then none of them were. You said last year, maybe Zlatan was the only fella that did kind of more than or around what he was expected to do.
Sound lad, Zlatan. Is there it's easy to bluff your way through a trial in terms of your personality. I mean, you're at a shiny new club, you're playing with shiny new teammates, you come across as a nice guy for a couple of weeks. If you look at the Ajax model, for example, if you talk about no dickheads allowed, it's easy to weed them out over the course of a few years. When you're actually seeing these lads grow up and become men, you will find out who are the sound guys, who aren't the sound guys. And I do wonder if the Ajax model can be taken and implemented by clubs with far more money in terms of a reliance on an academy system, and it is a reliance on an academy system. It may be tempting to go out and buy the big players, but there is a potential there of marrying the two, because they seem to have it off to a T in terms of not only the top class quality they're bringing through, but characters they're bringing through as well. They got a 19-year-old captain.
Yeah, but you can't say the likes of Chelsea and Manchester City haven't invested hugely in their youth setups over the past couple of years. Absolutely.
They're not
phenomenal.
relying on it.
Yeah, they're not relying on it because, Ajax are relying on it because they can't write a checkbook for 20, 30, 40 million bring, so they're totally dependent on it. The likes of Manchester City and Chelsea, etc., they're not Manchester, with their revenues, they're not. If you can marry them both together, absolutely. You have a very successful youth system, you promote those type of players with the kind of values, the type of characters that you want, absolutely right. But you're never going to get 11, 15 of them coming through the youth team. You get 2, 3, 4, yeah, absolutely. So you're going to have to look to the global market, the European market, to go and get those additional players, those top quality players to supplement what you already have, those younger players within the squad. So yeah, it's never going to be one or the other. At a club like Manchester United, Chelsea, Man City, it's going to be a marriage of both. So that's where Manchester United need to get. They've always had those youth players, probably gone away from that a little bit in terms of that conveyor belt youth coming through. You could see them getting back to that, but in terms of just getting your recruitment right, getting the right players in the door who are going to improve, spend your money wisely. Sounds a simple thing to say, but Manchester United haven't been doing that of late.
Part of me feels like one of the things that they should do at the moment is cash in on David De Gea and just have a full reset and go, I understand he's very valuable because he's one of the best goalkeepers in the world, but we would get a lot of money for him now and we could probably find a replacement.
They've got a good number 2 too, you know.
I
think you're right. Absolutely. If he's not, he looks to me a lot of mistakes being made. We spoke about, I don't know who it was last night. Technically, what's the problem mentally? If it's the fundamental is, I'm not happy here. Actually, I want to be somewhere else.
Take the 100 million on offer.
Exactly. He's got to go. It's as simple as that. If that's the case with Paul, I'm a big Paul Pogba fan, don't get me wrong. Personally, for me, going forward, I'd build a team around Pogba. But fundamentally, internally, if Pogba's made the decision, I want out, get him out. Get him out, get the money in. If it's Lukaku, whoever it is, and we're talking huge funds there.
Yeah,
we're talking. You get the Gea out the door there. Pogba, Lukaku. You're talking like 300 plus million for those 350 million. That's before you even have to find any money yourself.
What's your gut feeling on Rio Ferdinand as a sporting director, yay or nay, if you had to make the call on it now?
I'm not sure about this sporting. That's absolutely huge responsibility. Taking him in as part of, as a small part, yeah, absolutely. Listen to his advice, bringing him inside and saying, look, this is our recruitment setup at the moment. Have you got any ideas? What do you think? Potentially, we got it sitting down with Solskjaer. What are you looking for in the summer? What's your opinion? Who's out there? I mean, he hasn't. It's not as if he knows players.
He doesn't, though. He doesn't.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that's what I'm saying. For me, by himself, he's not the answer.
Yeah.
For me, if you want to integrate him into the football club and going forward, potentially, use him.
That's the role for him, down the line.
I'm sure at the moment, I'm talking about this summer, this window coming up, we're nearly there.
All the great title winning teams.
They need to be tagging players now.
Yeah, but all the great title winning teams have found players on the bench of another team. So you think all the way back to Patrick Vieira kicking his heels at AC Milan, ends up being the best player in the Premier League for a couple of seasons. You think of Payet, not Payet.
Yeah,
West Ham.
No, at Leicester. Leicester signed a bunch of players. N'Golo Kante, and who's now at Man City, my brain fart.
Oh, Mahrez,
who was like available for $1.5 million.
Yeah.
You need scouting to know exactly where that next tier of cheap players.
Yeah.
Andy Robertson, in some respects, was £8 million from Hull and didn't look like he was going to turn.
But doesn't quite apply. But Manchester United stand alone in terms of the fact that money literally is not an option. They're not restrained by that. But just because they have the money doesn't mean as if you're going to spend the right.
Does not know where the next Riyad Mahrez.
No, forget about. What about the one who's going to come in next August, and the 2 or 3 players are going to come into that Manchester United starting 11 and take that team to the next level straight away. That type of player who's out there now playing at the top clubs in Europe. Rio Ferdinand, give me 3 players. Give me 2 centre halves. The 2 best centre halves in Europe could play.
I would prefer somebody who's been embedded in football for the last 10 years. I would prefer Edwin van der Sar.
Both. I would take both. I would take as many of those people as possible and get them in a room to get around the table and sit them down and thrash it out and come up with a couple of names.
Rio was on BT Sport last night and Gary Lineker was asking him about the idea that, say if you were the sporting director of a big Premier League club, doesn't that guy De Ligt look good? And Rio Ferdinand's like, I know what you're trying to do there, Gary. Like, his role as a pundit is helping him to push himself into the consciousness of Manchester United fans, where they're now connecting the dots and they're like, De Ligt's Rio Ferdinand. I like the idea of that this guy can come in and get that guy, despite the fact that any sporting director in the world would be able to identify that talent.
That's good. Yeah, I think that's
the Champions League semi-final he's starring in at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they've been able to spend that money the last couple of years, but they haven't got those players in. They haven't been able to do it. You're saying, it's an easy one. The Elite is so good, like, you don't need to be a rocket scientist. No, he's going to improve the team. That's been the case for the last 4 years. United have had that spending power, but they haven't done it. But they haven't got that player in.
They need a negotiator rather than a scout.
They need somebody to target the player initially, and I'd even argue possibly somebody with his footballing background, someone to actually sit down with the player, but across the table from that player, if it's the Lit, 19 years of age, to sit him down, got all these offers across Europe. Somebody's at some stage going to have to sit him down and say, look, this is the best move for you, and this is why. And if Rio Ferdinand's making that pitch as opposed to Ed Woodward, for me as a player across the table,
you'd prefer it. But fundamentally, we're missing something. The top Premiership teams are paying miles over the odds for everybody to get into the club, because if you own a club, or if you're a club and have a player over in Holland, and somebody comes and it's Man United coming and it's PSV, and the offers are in, you're going to go back to United and say, oh, well, I know you offered us 30, thanks very much, but we rate this player 45 million. They know PSV aren't going to get back in the race, but they know United will be like, if United are desperate enough, like we saw with Matt and all these fellas.
United.
Matic, they kind of go, last second they just go, yeah, here's 45 million.
Oh, yeah.
But you're paying 50 million. What did you get Mahrez at? What did they get him at, $1 million? 800,000 or something?
Yeah. So as long as you get it right, 70 million for Van Dijk, 70 million for Van Dijk, but if he's the right player and he takes it to the next level, ultimately it'll be money well spent. As long as you spend the money right, you might be paying a premium, but just make sure the signing is the right one. That's what United haven't done.
I'm glad we fixed all that. For the last 9 weeks, we've teamed up with Leia Healthcare, the official health and wellbeing partner to Leinster Rugby, to launch Wellbeing Wednesday. We had 9 winners, and each of them have had a Blue Book voucher worth €250 for their very own wellbeing retreat. Right now, though, we're picking out our overall winner to win a season ticket to Leinster next season and a Leia Healthcare wellbeing hamper as well. Our 9 names: Anne-Marie Marr, Darcy Cameron, Jimmy McCullough, Rob Byrne, Carl Lawler, Seamus Gagan, Bridget Murphy, Rory D and Mark Waters. Pick one there for me, Kenny.
Oh,
my lovely assistant.
I'm gonna put a bit of chocolate in that box.
There's a crunchy on the way as well.
A few catch bars.
And the winner is
season ticket beside Kenny's.
Do you need your glasses?
Oh, gee, that's a great show. Oh, it's Carl. It's Carl, isn't it?
Carl Lawler.
Yeah.
Carl Lawler.
Carl, well done.
Are you sure now?
Sounds like a dub. He sounds like a dub.
Kenny, well done, Carl as well.
Very Matthew this morning.
And our thanks to Leia Healthcare for being involved over the last 9 weeks as well. Now, off the ball, thanks lads for being in tonight. Off the ball is back tonight from 7, Liverpool, Barca. Who's going to win?
Always wait till I see the team selection, Ger.
You're in tonight though, so you can tell us at 7 o'clock when you see
best chance Liverpool have ever had. That's as far as I'm going to say. Going to Barcelona and winning.
Yeah, if there's a team to do it, it's Liverpool at the moment.
So Wednesday Night Rugby coming your way as well, and the football show. We're going to leave you with this and recommend you check it out. It's a brilliant interview from last night's Off the Ball. The London Marathon was a memorable one for Sinead Diver. The Belmullet native finished 7th, just a decade on from when she first took up running at the age of 32, having just given birth to her first child. It's an amazing story. The phenomenal marathon performance means she's all but certain to qualify for the 2020 Olympics, where unfortunately she's going to be representing Australia instead of Ireland, but we'll all get behind her anyway. Last night she spoke with Joe. Have a look.
It's the most incredible story, really. Like, it's astronomical that you start running in 2010 and then in 2012 you win the Australian half marathon, and then your debut marathon is just 5 years ago, the Melbourne Marathon, where you finish 2nd and you run 2:34.15 in that race. Like, it's just a bit extraordinary. I would understand if, like, a gifted lacrosse or ice hockey player didn't quite somehow find their sport. You know, they mightn't come across it, but you would just think somewhere along the line that a running talent of what, you know, the level we're talking about with you here, that natural fitness or that natural ability you clearly have just would have emerged somewhere. Like, I'm talking the school sports day here.
Oh, yeah, well, so it was primary school that I went to, we didn't have any sport. There was no sports days or no PE or anything. We would randomly have, like, a bit of sport, but the focus was academics, and it was exactly the same in the secondary school I went to. It was a really good school and everything, but it was run by nuns, and they were kind of a bit conservative about girls playing sport. So we were allowed to play basketball, but that was it. And I think for the 5 years that I was there, we had one sports day. So I just never got into it. I didn't know anything about athletics or We didn't, at the time when I was growing up, we didn't have an athletic club or anything. That's all changed now, and they started one up, I think, a couple of years ago, and it's doing really well, and there's loads of kids in the community in it, which is fantastic. But then as a result of me not having any, I loved sport, and I didn't have any avenues to do it, so I ended up doing PE in Limerick. And then when I get into that, it was very much across all sports. There was never really a running focus or anything. And then at that stage, I was like 17, and you were almost, it's bizarre to say it now given my story, but you were almost expected to already have found your sport by then. So when I came and, they were asking me, what's your sport? I was like, oh my God, I don't have one. But I just said basketball because that was the only thing that I played. But I was pretty good across most sports. And then I kind of focused on basketball for a few years, and until I moved to Australia, actually, I still played basketball for a few years. So it just kind of worked out that way. It's just I never had any mentors in athletics or anything, and yeah, it's unfortunate in a way, but I think I'm making the most of it now. So.